Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to the first ever My Hero Talkademia episode. I am joined by some wonderful guests here. We're going to dive into the landscape of content creation within the game of universes. But first, we're going to go around real quick. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves to the chat. Let them know who you are and where they can find you on social media. I'm going to pass it to you first, Steven.
Howdy, everyone. My name is Steven. Some people know me as the True Champion Steven. You can find me on YouTube or Twitch under that handle. Also, Twitter at ChampionSteven_. I'm a little bit obsessed with card games, and my most recent obsession is the My Hero Academia card game, and I kind of can't stop playing it. So I feel like we're going to talk about why that is today.
Awesome. And then next we have the Jasco official himself, Aspira. Aspira, introduce yourself, please.
Hey everybody, I'm Aspira, card game aficionado, and anything that piques my interest I jump right into. I do YouTube on Aspira TCG, as well as stream any tournament runs, anything I do with card games over on Aspira TV on Twitch, and anything and everything, and especially My Hero, so excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm excited to have you here. Tamron, last but not least, Tamron Cardwell, please let them know who you are.
Yo, what up? I'm Tam. I would consider myself now an old head of universes. I played back when it was called UFS. Big fan of content creation. It is a passion of mine. I really like it. I really enjoy it. And I'm really honored to be on a cast with everybody else here because I've been doing this for so long, but I still feel like the little fish, compared to the two titans.
Awesome. Yep, I would consider myself an old head too. I, of course, am Sam Tate. I'm Ace Maneuvers on YouTube. I've been playing since 2014, roughly. And I thought it was really cool. The guests that we have a sort of three levels, right? We've got the old head within Tamron Cardwell. We've got someone who's been here since, at the very least, the start of the My Hero Academia card game with the Spirit. And we have Steven, who, correct me if I'm wrong, Steven, have you only been playing for about a month and a half now?
I officially got cards April 9th of this game. First day
so
over
just
cards.
over a month.
I signed up for all the provisionals and regionals before owning a single card. Fun fact.
Awesome. That is awesome. So now that we've gotten a little bit of background info, the common thread here is we're all card game lovers, right? So I just want to get the ground rules out. Everyone is going to be extremely curious. I need to know your favorite card game of all time. Nostalgia, everything included, whether it was casual, competitive, playground meta. I'm going to start with the Spirit, since we all know he's contractually obligated to answer with the My Hero card game anyways.
So first off, I just do want to say that in the admin panel, there's a fixed rainbow puke. Right now, Tam is going through the stratosphere at the moment. If you just click that button, it fixes that right up.
True, he is.
This was a stylistic choice, actually.
Oh, man. I saw that button earlier.
As much as I'm contractually obligated, I think there's a lot of depth to that question because I think a lot of card games appeal for a lot of different things. So, yes, obviously, I love the My Hero Academia card game, and I'm working with it. And I think, the My Hero Academia card game is doing really well in terms of all the different components that bring it together to be the card game I am most passionate about being a part of right now. And I think that's just doing really well in terms of incorporating what everyone else has done incredibly well. I love, Dragon Ball card game for the mechanics that it has. I love the Digimon card game for the hype moments it can have and everything that security in there can give you. And I love Magic the Gathering for the deep amount of depth and interaction it has. So on a mechanical standpoint, Universes and MHA brings that in all together to really make it an incredible package. And then when you add on top of that a young new team at Jasco Games that is trying to make the organized play and the whole experience surrounding the card game as well a really fun one, that's what it lends me to really enjoying it as the card game of choice at the moment. But I love all card games. I won't shy away from saying that.
It's hard to pick, right? They're all so unique. They all have their own role in the world. Tamron, I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to need everyone out there in the chat to know officially, what is your favorite card game of all time?
Oh, it's Universes. Universe is easy, hands down. Not a contest.
100%.
Not a contest. OG Yu-Gi-Oh player, made some deep runs at like nationals at those events. Played a lot of meta decks, anti-meta decks. Won a regional over there. I've played Pokemon, Magic, Dragon Ball Super. I played like the first 3 sets. I've played officially one pre-release of Digimon, so I'm definitely an expert there. But like, there's something really magic about universes in really every aspect of the game of playing, deck building, not to mention like the biggest one truly is the community. The people that play the game are so freaking amazing. But yeah, it's grade A, the best card game that's ever been printed, and I'll die on that hill.
Awesome. And we're definitely, you touched on a lot of things we're definitely going to dive into later on in the show here. And then, of course, True Champion Steven, we got to know, what is your favorite card game? Being the newest, member of the community on the show here, I'm very curious what your answer is.
So I actually talk about this a lot on my live streams because people always ask this question of like, how many different card games have I played? How long have I played them, et cetera, et cetera. And I tallied up like the other day. I have played 15 different card games at a competitive level. That means to me, I've spent months of my time figuring out what the best deck was. I played in tournaments. I tried to compete at the highest level possible at that time for those games. And all those games, half of them, the only reason I'm not playing them anymore is because they died. I would probably still be playing them to this day. But I don't actually have an answer to this question. I don't actually have a favorite card game ever. I have the card games that I will always think fondly of. I have the card games that I wish were still around. I have the card games that drew me in because of how dynamic and crazy the gameplay was. And then I have card games that I just personally love and are nostalgic for me. But I'll give you 3 answers to this question that I think are the type of answers you're looking for. The game that I played the longest and still play to this day is Cardfight Vanguard. I will always love Cardfight Vanguard. It was what pushed me over the edge and truly made playing card games something that I spent every waking hour of my free time on. I've played it for almost 10 years. The game that has the best gameplay I've ever touched, in my opinion, ever, is one that I know no one here will know about. Maybe Spear will. Luck and Logic. Luck and Logic is by far one of the coolest games I've ever played. I loved the gameplay of it. If it was still around, I'd probably still be playing it. And then in terms of what card game has done the most for me, either personally, emotionally, or even professionally in terms of what I've done the best in, I would say it's Pokemon, because that's what showed me, hey, there's more to card games than me just liking them. This is actually a thing that if I took more time doing, I could actually benefit a community. I could actually better my life in a way that just wasn't passing my time or entertaining myself. I could just do more for others and also for myself at the same time. So Pokemon, Cardfight Vanguard, and Luck and Logic are my big 3, but I'm in love with My Hero right now. I would say my favorite aspect of it is the combat focus. It reminds me a lot of a game I used to play called Dragon Ball Z Panini, the one that Panini hosted. I think it got rebooted like in 2014, 2015 or something. I played that version of it. And it was very much like draw to your hand size, punch, 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 pass, pass, pass. There wasn't like just but unlike My Hero, there wasn't just passive resources, that are always in play. It was literally just, did you draw your attacks? Well, let's go. It was pretty crazy. So definitely like that aspect of My Hero, and I definitely want to build more into just analyzing board states, figuring out the best lines of attacks or blocks, and then just chucking them at my opponent and having some fun. That's what I love about this game.
I love that. I love that you have like 3 levels of answer there. We could get into dead card games for hours and hours, I'm sure. But this is gonna kind of bridge into my next question here for you guys. Do you tend to stick with one card game at a time? They've recently been described in the media as a luxury hobby item, and keeping up with changing metas, different formats, and set releases can be a lot to deal with in the current marketplace. Do you like to spread the wealth, or is it really just a specific game that grabs your attention at any given time? Tamron, I want to hear from you first on this one.
The easy answer is no. Excuse me. Yes, I do stick with one card game at a time. I don't really branch out. I used to, maybe 4 months ago, play a little Flesh and Blood competitively. and that game was fun. I called it Universes for Babies. Very similar mechanics of like drop to your hand size, block with cards from your hand, swing, but everything does 3 damage. You have 40 health, blah 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 blah. But it's more of the fact of like I want to stick with one card game because I think it's I've heard this phrase. It's impossible to focus on more than one thing. You can pay attention to a lot of things, but you can't focus on more than one thing. And I want to focus on my hero rather than pay attention to my hero and pay attention to Flesh of Blood and pay attention to all these other card games. I want to focus. And so for me personally, I think focusing is better for me as both a content creator and a player.
I love that answer. I love that you're able to really invest in what you want, right? And you can get something out of that. Steven, you just talked about how you love all these different card games, right? And how you've wanted to play, I think, what was it, 15 competitively? So
I have played 15 competitively.
Yeah. So is that, do any of those overlap, or are you just like all in on one card game to get the most out of it at one time?
All the time. I think my record for most card games I've been playing at the competitive level was 5. And I was going to every tournament I could for those games. Sometimes there would be weekends where I have to pick, okay, am I going to this Card Fight Vanguard regional? Or am I going to this Buddy Fight regional? Or am I going to this Pokemon regional? What are we doing? And it would be really a time management challenge too. Because like Tam said, I can't focus on all of these games. I can't like pick a day and be like, I'm just going to be the best Pokemon player that day and not worry about anything else before that. I need to allocate time before that to get ready for that tournament or get ready for that event or get ready for that release or whatever. So it's definitely a challenge, but it's one that I personally love because I love paying attention to so many different card games. Like I think right now I'm actively a part of 6 different communities. 2 of the games I don't even play. Like I'm not actively playing Yu-Gi-Oh right now, but I'm paying attention to what's winning YCSs. I have friends that are some of the best players in the world that I'll talk to regularly, and I can have conversations with them about like, oh yeah, adventurers, they're crazy. Oh yeah, that's a crazy deck or whatever it is. So I really like the ability to just be like that chameleon that can join, that can be a part of it, partake as much as anyone else, and then leave, because that to me is what is most fun about it. It's not necessarily playing at the highest level possible all the time. It's about thinking practically about how I can interact with that community in a way that I enjoy. And sometimes that means buckling down, taking a whole week's worth of nights and just figuring out what deck I'm going to play for some event that I want to go to, and then just doing my best when I get there. You know, I am the type of guy, though, that can figure out a format relatively quickly. And by that, I mean spend 6 hours on TTS or on webcam with someone who's way better than me, and we can figure it out together. You know, I can cram for a tournament, and I have done plenty of times and seen a modicum of success. So right now, I would say I'm only playing 2 that have the most I can give to both, which is about like 60% My Hero, 40% Digimon. I kind of got Digimon on lock in terms of just like keeping up. Regionals are coming up for that. I'll be doing Origins for Digimon and for My Hero. It's going to be crazy. Can't wait. It's going to be a crazy week. But those I'd say are my main 2. But at any point, I want to get back into Pokemon. I want to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Like hard. And that might happen by the end of this year. You never know.
Okay.
I definitely like having my options open. I don't like saying I'm only one guy. If it's hot, I'll be there. No worries.
Right. Yeah. I love to follow the metas from other games. I love to watch, content creators from Yu-Gi-Oh, from Pokemon, from Magic, from everything, right? To really understand the landscape and like what's pushing the limits in different games, and actually being able to keep up and go to tournaments is extremely impressive to me. Espira, how about you? Have you ever had multiple games that you're really trying to compete at the highest level at the same time?
I'd say that's the kind of player I am today. So when I first started off, I was a Magic purist. Every other card game sucked, only play Magic. And I think a lot of Magic players really get into that kind of mentality, like, well, if it's not Magic, it's not worth playing.
They don't care.
Like, yeah. So when I eventually moved away from Montreal back to my hometown, I decided to expand and try different card games. And then I started looking into Dragon Ball, Final Fantasy. Eventually, Vanguard came into my view, and then I played Hearthstone and some other digital CCGs like Eternal and stuff like that. And then my really love and appreciation for kind of deep diving into all these different games and how they play. And at this point, I'm very much like a little ADD oriented when it comes to card games, like new card game. All right, where, so like
yes.
Yeah.
So,
That's why it's an addiction.
The cardboard
That's
crack,
why.
it gets them every time.
yeah, and
Oh.
it's especially because I do think, like, with the deep amount of experience I have playing competitively in card games, and the way I look at card games is from a very theoretical level, and a lot of understandings about advantage and how card game play translate incredibly well on a high level when you apply them into other card games. A little bit less into UVS, it's kind of weird that way, but nonetheless, it transfers over. So just like Steven, I don't really spend that much time trying to crack my head over a format. I'm like, okay, this works, this will probably work, and this will work, and then kind of go from there. That said, I don't test at all because I'm lazy and I don't have time. So
Never.
like everyone tells me, like, you must play this game so much. I'm like, guys, I swear to God, if I'm not on stream playing, odds are I'm actually not playing that much. So it's like, just to say, it's two-factored. One, I love touching base and experimenting with a whole bunch of different things, which is why I like deep diving into anything I can get my hands on. Because at the end of the day, if I can pick up something new from those places, it'll make me a better creator. It'll make me a better player, right? So that fast is interesting. And I'm not a very habitual person. So like, I like the ability to say, all right, now I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And at the end of the day, if I can establish myself as a creator, that people appreciate my views and the way I talk about things, and they more so come from my, distinction in the card game space, as opposed to just saying, oh, well, he's a this creator, he's a this creator. One, that's good for my brand because it means if the card game ever dies, I don't just die. And then secondarily, it's I think it's a good way to keep on working on yourself and everything that you do.
Yeah, it's so funny that brings up so many questions for me, right? And I've got like the prompts and everything already written down, but I want to just go off on a tangent because it's so great to look at how many games you can follow because of content creators. If it wasn't for content creators, I could not play Magic the Gathering at the level that I do and have as much fun as I do. If it wasn't for people to talk to me and explain to me how this combo works in a game, how to, how to even just play like basic strategies around really specific cards, that saves you so much time. And really hanging out with Tamron Cardwell and getting to talk to him and watch his streams where he's coaching people, it has really this is something I had from fighting games where like coaching seems superfluous when you have all the information. But the fact that somebody can condense it for you and just serve it to you on a plate is really an invaluable resource. And just, living in the year 2022 with all the information flying around, I think it makes it easier than ever to be a fan of different card games, but it's still so difficult to be competitive in them. But I do want to dive down into the history of our game. So now we know a little bit more of your histories and preferences with card games in general. I need to know, where did you get started with the My Hero Academia card game? Was there any previous knowledge of Jasco or Universes? What about the game really grabbed you and brought you to the community? I'm going to start with the newest member of the community here, True Champion Steven. I think that everyone's the most anxious for your answer on this question.
So really quick, I wanted to add on one more thing about that thing you just brought up, Sam.
No,
about,
absolutely.
like, reaching out to people that know more than you, because that's actually kind of how I got like really started. Was I actually messaged you because after doing all my personal research into the game, I was like, so Sue's the best deck, right? And you were someone that I watched to get like more deep into the game, and I really respected your opinions, and I just wanted to have a nice long conversation with you about card game theory, because that's what I love to do. Like Aspira said, I just love meeting someone who knows so much about something that I don't know, but I want to know, and just having like a 5-hour conversation with them about it, and then I'll fall in love with it, and then they'll be happy that I did, because now we can do it together. It's great. Anyway, so I asked you that. And then I begged you to see what a Sulek looked like, because I didn't know what one looked like. I just knew, okay, card pool, progressive, we don't want that. Sue can do that. She's the best. Let's do that. And then we had a conversation about it, and then I played Sue. I only played Sue, and then that was all I worried about. So that to me is like the real benefit to having a community like UVS, where there are people that have been playing this game for 16 years that I can just be like, is this a good deck? And they're like, no, but this is a good one. It's like, oh, sick, thank you. It just makes my life simpler to focus, because I don't have the ability with all the games that I play to really solve something unless I want to take the time to. And so it was very helpful. And then in terms of how I got onto My Hero specifically, I guess this is just like how my addiction works. So I've always known that UFS back in the day, UVS now, My Hero now, I've always known it's existed. I think the first time I really was like, what is this, was when Mega Man was the most recent set in standard, like in 2014 or something. I don't even know. Anyway, I knew that was the thing. I was like, oh, that's a fun game. I played that one as a kid. Cool card game. Never touched it. I was playing Pokemon at the time. Whatever.
Pokemon was pretty good back then in
Pokemon
2014.
was great back then.
Pokemon was good back then.
Oh, baby. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Anyway, that was cool. Never knew what the rules are. I did have some friends that played it, but they didn't. My friends weren't like, "Hey, you should play this game that we're playing." I'm like, "No, I'm playing this one. It's cool." And I was like a high school kid, so they didn't. And I don't remember if it was like ever an expensive game, but they were just like, "Nah, you don't need to get into this one right now. You're playing too many as it is." Anyway, what I will say though is, for My Hero specifically, this happens for a lot of card games that are based on animes that I like, where I'm like, hold on, now let me actually take a look at this. Like, they'll get me in the door, but if the game isn't good, I'm out, Like, I'll tell you this right now. If Digimon was a bad game, I wouldn't play it, But I do love the Digimon anime. I had a friend that told me it was a thing in Japan. I looked into it. I saw the gameplay. I had free time because of Coco and everything. So I was like, you know what? Let's do this. And I played it online on TTS for like months, and then it finally got localized in English, and bada bing, here we are. I'm playing Digimon now, right? For My Hero, I looked into it, and I realized, oh, this is that UFS thing I knew about. Wait, it's called Universes now? Oh, that's crazy. No, it's My Hero now? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's whatever. And so I learned about standard, retro. Probably took me like 2 months to get out of that rabbit hole. I learned about like a lot of old stuff that I totally forgot about now. The only thing I can remember is Faye is annoying, right? Yeah, that's a thing.
Faye's tight.
You take that back.
I mean, annoying is
to play against, right? To play against. No. Cassandra's annoying. She's annoying.
Cassandra. Yeah, there you go.
That's
there you
the
go.
one.
Hey, we can disparage that character. Nobody likes
Anyway.
that. Faye's sweet.
Anyway, and then once I got caught up, the first deck I wanted to build, no joke, was Kirishima. And George can attest to this. I told him this. I was like, I want to play Kirishima. And then I found out that he was the first deck to get the big Mighty Jasco Hammer. I was like, no.
Everyone wanted to play Kirishima for a while.
I just love Kirishima so much. So I was like, I was glad. I was like, he's broken, right? And he's like, yes, too much. Anyways, but then like, it's kind of a blur now, honestly. Like, it was really just anytime I had like a free 2 hours, I would look up old videos, or I would learn the rules, watch people play, and then I would just like go to the card pool and figure stuff out. There was a time where I thought certain set 2 cards were actually set 1 cards. We're not going to talk about that. But yeah, and now I'm pretty caught up, I think. I don't think there's anything I'd be surprised by.
Casually topping provisionals and stuff, right?
Yeah, waltzing into Top Cuts.
I still regret not taking the ID in my first one to get that first top 16. How could I know that people were gonna play it out when they were guaranteed? I didn't know. I've never seen that before.
It's all about the seeding. They have the preferential seeding changes everything.
Yo, but imagine if I did win that last round, 2nd seed, first tournament ever. Come on, that's no joke. Let's do it.
Tight.
I have actually seen someone go into final rounds of a PTC, 0 losses, choose to play it out for Swiss Champ at a time when it did not matter. They still had to roll dice for Top Cuts, and they actually lost and did not make top 8. It was a cut to 8 as 1 loss because literally everyone else tied. Everyone else intentionally drew. They wanted they wanted to have a perfect record because it was the first time they ever went like undefeated up until the final round, and they gambled it and they got knocked out.
I've definitely done that in a Pokemon cash tournament before, and I definitely regret it.
What a sick story, though, right?
Yeah.
That guy gets to walk away actually the winner. It's like, I was there to scrap. I'm there to play the game, you know? Man. I traveled. I want to play every round. I'm here to play the game.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
So, Aspira, I'm going to come to you next with that same question. So, what about the game really grabbed you? What brought you to the community? When is the first time you had heard about Universes / My Hero Academia?
So the first experience I had with Universes was during a Soul Calibur set where they were really pushing a pre-release. Carta Magica is actually one of the stores that works very closely with Jasco Games, so it just happens to be my local. So they pushed it there, and I picked up a deck at pre-release. I picked up Azathoth, I think is his name.
Astaroth, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Definitely wasn't great at the game, but turns out he runs throws. So I just kind of threw my way into winning the pre-release.
Big swings. The big guy.
So that was the first thing, and I will say, and I talk about this all the time about how divergent UVS is in the way that it plays versus other card games. So like, not only is there mechanics of like difficulty and checking and stuff like that, but like the notions of like card advantage don't apply as well because you're effectively drawing like 5 to 7 cards a turn. And in that sense, very similar to like Pokemon, where it's just like it's more so about how you utilize the cards than actually being able to draw an additional 1 or 2. So played that for a while, and then it didn't really pick up on my locals after that. Like everyone kind of had like a Soul Calibur deck, but it kind of like went back. And I think that was one of the things where it's like UVS is cool in an idea that obviously you get all these different universes playing against each other, and that's great. But it was a little bit difficult to get into the game because reprints aren't as available because licensing is only available for X amount of time, and finding old decks, because I'm a competitive player, right? I get into a card game, my first deck is a tier 1 deck because I just want to do well at the table. That's just the way I am. And then finding out about that was a little bit difficult. So anyways, I go back into my world of like other CCGs, and then my hero pops up. Wait a year. Wait another year.
When I found out that My Hero existed 3 years ago, I was like, what? No way. To me, it was like November when it got announced and out. That's what I thought. But no, you guys were in limbo for so long.
Tell me about it, dude.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So November comes around, all right, and then I start picking up products. I'm like, all right, this game's sick. Took me a minute to learn how to play, though. Make the how to play video. Awesome. And I'm going to say, the first comments were like, oh, look at this guy trying to get in on all the hype, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I'll give it to the community. While I was like, oh, is that the attitude you want to have with me? I will say that I do love a protective community that says like, this is what we stand for. And, there's an understanding that with a huge wave of a new player base, and once you get into those big player bases, there are those different segments and attitudes that come in. And, Tam has said it before, the community is absolutely amazing. And like wanting to defend what it's all about, give people a chance, guys, is really been a huge plus. So from there, got into that, picked up decks, started making content about it. My first few decks weren't great. Sorry about guys who, took my deck profiles and ran with them. And then at that point, it was just an opportunity presented itself to be able to assist Jasco based on at that point, my experience had been doing things like coordinating national and world-sized events for other CCGs and stuff. And at which point there was an opportunity to be able to kind of take that knowledge and really try and push universes and MHA into the big boy league and try and get it there. So to that end, that's where a lot of my focus has been, and taking everything that I've learned and everything we can learn from every other card game and just making this one the best one that it can be on every stage.
I am very glad to have you on our side. You could have gotten snatched up by any other card game, it sounds like. So I'm very happy that you are here helping grow the game, on multiple sides. We talk about growing the game. There is growing the community, and then there's also growing the game, right? And there's so many different fronts that you kind of have to attack the business aspect of it from. So I will also say that I personally, maybe it's just because I play so many card games, because we're all like fans of the medium, I love to net deck early. I love to net deck so I know what feels good. I know what other people value. I know what is tried and true, right? And then you branch off, right? Then you iterate from there to find what you really like. And so I think that being not afraid to copy someone else's homework is a huge benefit. I think that's actually like a lot of people have a hang up, it's like a personal choice. And so that's something I had to overcome as I got older, is just not feeling like a cheese wad for copying a deck list. But Tamron Cardwell, you're the only one who hasn't answered this question. This question is probably going to be a little different for you. But where did you get started? What really grabbed your attention when you first found the Universes game?
So I actually got demoed very similar to Espera. I was a Yu-Gi-Oh guy and was every Friday night raging wars with the Magic people because their event started 2 hours later and they kept taking our tables. And so I was such a Yu-Gi-Oh pilled player of like Yu-Gi-Oh's the best game. It's so insane. I'll never play another card game. It's the best one, obviously. And then actually I got demoed with some old characters. It was Miles Tyler from Legendary Wolf Games who came in with a legacy Ken deck, like Ken 2 or something. I don't know. Well, that made you discard cards, Sam. I don't even know. Before my time. And then Terry 1, who you end up getting banned in retro. So congrats.
I'm very proud of that, by the way. But you made the deck. Now that we're just gonna circle jerk.
So we played the game and it was fun. It was fun. It was whatever. But the next round's starting, so I gotta go. Fast forward 2-3 years. I'm working at a card shop. He comes in and it's locals night. And he has whatever. And two of my best friends in the whole wide world, James and Tyler from TCG University, were like, "Yo, if we're ever odd, here's this Dr. Wily deck. Come play the game with us. You'll make us not have buys." And I went, "Mega Man? I like Mega Man. Dr. Wily's sick. Wait, I destroy their stuff. I control their board. That's sick. I'm in. How sweet." So they just gave me like 2 starter decks for Dr. Wily. And this was at a time like when Jasco had its first famine, its first drought of new products. So they hadn't had a new product in like a year and a half, 2 years, and it was just the last Mega Man set that was available. And so I played the game for 5 months, and we didn't have a set or whatever. And then the World of Endines, everybody's favorite IP. Perry, remember that popular IP, the World of Endines?
Yeah.
Yeah, the MMO, right? World of Endines.
That was certainly my first set.
Is that the one with Blanca in it? No.
Yeah, right, yeah. But yeah, we played the World of Endines. I played in the pre-release. It was incredibly fun. And then what really hooked me was events, traveling, going and playing at these events, meeting these pro players, and meeting characters, like playing a character with somebody's face on it, and I'm sitting across from the person whose character I'm playing. Huge. Absolutely massive. Like going and sitting down and fighting Ben Shoemaker, who was playing Ben Shoemaker, and him dumpstering me. I mean, he had a mechanic where like he would after he hit with an attack, he would draw a card, discard a card. Right, that was like his deal. He was just a glass cannon, and he started discarding attacks off of it, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm the most dead ever." You chose to discard the orange ones, but no, it was super rad, and I've played in every pre-release up until then. I started making content with TCGU, and then ended up breaking off and doing my own solo gig. But it's when it comes to My Hero, like I knew that I wanted to be the My Hero guy, and it helped a ton that I was also already the Universes guy. But the Universes, like I'd have 4 views on a video, whereas My Hero escalated because My Hero is like a real product. I said this before on a ton of different programs. Like I think the biggest reason that Universes as a whole did not succeed is because of the IP that they chose were already in other games. If I like Street Fighter, I'm gonna just go play Street Fighter. I'm not gonna go play a card game about Street Fighter, right? So like I like Soul Calibur, but the same thing is where it is. So like Cowboy Bebop, Yu Yu Hakusho saw quite a bit of success of bringing people in because like you can't play a game with that, and My Hero now is going above and beyond. Hate to say it, plus ultra with the people coming in, and so I love the mechanics, the universal fighting system, and so the fact that it got to bleed over into My Hero is where it's at.
Yeah, I might have to fight you on the fighting game card game aspect because I love fighting games, but all I wanted was a fighting game card game. I didn't know Universes actually existed for a while, or I might have seen it, but it always looked like a dead card game. It looked like, people were selling cards, not decks. Like that was always a big thing. I never like stumbled upon a deck list. I always stumbled upon collected singles of, random assortments of cards. But I wandered into a game shop one day randomly on my day off, and I realized I had some extra cash to spend. I was just going to go buy some board games. And when I walked in, I noticed a Terry Bogard 1-dot character card, and he's my favorite character from my favorite fighting game series, and I was just going to buy it to collect it, which is not something I normally do, which that tells you how much I love the character, right? Like that's how big a fan of Terry Bogard I am. And the person behind the counter was like, "Oh, we got more cards for this. Do you want to learn to play?" And that blew my mind. because it was the King of Fighters cards over by themselves, but what they were selling and demoing were the Mega Man cards. And when I found out it's like the same game, you know, when I found out there's Darkstalkers and they have their own IP and things like that, and one of the things that actually really sold me is in the Red Horizon intellectual property, the Jasco Games property, Miska has a little dog, and the dog card is so cool, like very useful. And so like all these little things came together for me. It was just kind of like a magical moment where it's like, here's my favorite character, here's all these things that I like. And then what really got me was they told me I could play any card on my opponent's turn to prevent me from taking damage. And that, like, I looked at my hand, I went, these are all counter spells. I'm it.
These are all counter spells.
Blocking is OP. Blocking is OP.
Yeah.
I definitely view blocking as like the closest thing to a counter spell that our game has. So if I can draw my whole hand and it's just islands and counter spells, I feel okay.
And then imagine it as breaker. Be like, pop my trap card. You got there. Nice.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what brought you guys to the game. Now I think it's time to dive into the meat of our discussion here, the content creator roundtable. We know what games you like and how you got here, but I think the burning question on everyone's mind has to be, where did you get started with content creation? We want to know the whys and the hows, but tell me, was there a specific moment that made you think, I have to record this, I have to be on camera, an idea that you knew had to be broadcasted to the world? What was the impetus for putting yourself out there into the virtual world? I'm going to come to Aspira for this one first.
So I've always had a bit of a creative drive in me. So actually, my content creation like history starts when I was like 10 years old and found the application named Pivot. So Pivot is a stick figure animation where you kind of create a stick figure and then you move it around and you screenshot it, do that. And actually, that lives on a dead YouTube channel called Pulverizer38. Which was
Gotta go bring that up.
Which was my old Hotmail account when I first started on the internet. Back in the MSN days.
10 new subscribers immediately.
I think I still have access to it for what it's worth. But
TMNT reference that was? Yeah?
yeah. So I ended up doing that, did the stick figure stuff, and then I got really into the MMO MapleStory. And then found out that there's a whole animation community based on that. And then I found out about Flash, and then I found out newgrounds.com. So then I started doing sprite animation. So then for about 5 years, I did things on it. Those videos are all deleted now. They don't even exist anymore. But I did Flash animations for like a solid 5+ years throughout high school. And then, so I've always wanted to get myself out there, either creatively or in some fashion. And maybe that's just because I'm like an attention hog and I want like attention towards me. But so I've always done that kind of thing. And then that took a break once I went into college, and then it really stuck to the wayside. And then once I started picking up Magic again, I was like, okay, well, I have the itch now. I don't have school bogging me down, and I want to make stuff. So it started when Arena was coming out. I did a couple of videos covering MTG Arena, and then everyone's like, NDA, NDA. I'm like, you guys are idiots. This isn't covered by the NDA. And so so that happened, but took a break there from that coverage because I was moving, went back home, and then I'm like, okay, well, I pick up this new card game. Let's run into it. So, you start the same way everyone does, did some Dragon Ball content. All right, best staples of the game. This is where your money should go. This is my road to nationals. Like the kind of content that everyone loves making when it comes to stuff. And I still love that kind of content. And then that just slowly transitioned into kind of finding where my beat was. And I think that's always like something I tell creators all the time. It's like, I don't know how to get started. I don't know what to do. I just do what everyone else is doing. Add your own personal flair to it. And as you do things like talking about decks and talking about meta and blah, 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 you'll find your groove and figure out where your niche lies and how you can really dig really deep into that. And that's what I started doing. So design talks, talking about the analysis of card games and stuff like that was a really big thing. And then eventually I got into streaming. I'm like, well, there's all these webcam tournaments. I might as well just stream my gameplay. So I started streaming my tournament runs. It started slow, 5, 10 viewers, and then eventually got into being able to do big events. And that's where my big focus has been ever since it really kicked off going, a year and a half into Coco. Thanks, Steven.
Give it a dumb name.
So and then at that point, I was doing things like coordinating with Bandai on doing big reveal events. So like we revealed the secret rares of one of the sets, and that stream got like 1,300 viewers, right? And then I became that guy because I was always focused on quality and bringing things together and making the show can be produced. And now I lean very much on kind of like the back end aspect of content creation, where if there's a production that's going on, odds are I probably had my hand in it in some way, in terms of like aligning casters or getting the production done or doing the assets and graphics and stuff, or even being on the camera itself, right? So to that end, I very much lean on a resource that like I've taken my wealth of experience, and like I'm not the biggest channel in the world, I recognize that, but I understand the steps to success, and now I work towards helping a bunch of others being able to kick off. So like I'll go to a lot of creators and be like, yo, you guys could be doing this, or I go to card games like Jesco Games and Bandai and be like, yo guys, we should really be looking to do this and this. So there's a bunch of creators that I've been like I've worked alongside to bring them up. UniX DBS was like a sub 100 subscriber channel, and then I had like a couple of seminars with him, like, hey guy, like I love your energy, how about we try doing this and this. And now he's one of the more prominent ones in the Dragon Ball space. I talked to Universes Academy for a little bit when I just got into MHA. I'm like, yo, I like you guys' podcast, and I like the way you guys talk about things. How about we try doing these couple of things that would really help, things. And, it's moving along, and they're making good progress, and now their viewership is doubled or tripled what it used to be. So I love being that guy now where I can take everything I've learned and apply it to other people and really grow their experiences. My long-term goal is still making content for myself, and if I can keep on growing myself as a personality, all the better. And then eventually I want to take those creative aspects of myself, like when I was like 10 years old making stick figures, and I would love to have like an animation house, an animation studio. I think the long-term goal is being the guy that Universes licenses to get my shit on cards, so.
That would be pretty cool.
Cracked.
Yeah.
That would be an awesome kind of full circle moment,
That's what I'm saying.
I am going to go to Steven next. True Champion Steven, what was the first time you thought, man, I need to turn on this camera, I need to broadcast myself out there to the world, people need to know what I have to say about card games?
Well, I want to briefly touch on my need for attention, because my spirit brought it up as like, this might be the thing. This is definitely why I'm here. I was a professional magician for 6.5 years throughout middle, high school, and the beginning of college. So I have like this performance aspect that I've always really liked about like doing something, like playing someone who isn't Steven the guy and playing someone who is Steven the guy you're looking at is different, and I like that a lot. So there's always been an itch to me to find an excuse to perform. That's number one.
Real quick, I have to ask you, have you ever used your magician secrets for evil when playing a card game? Be honest now.
No,
you don't have to tell us who.
No,
You don't have
no,
to give
I
us any details.
Let me tell you
True
something.
Champion Steven, not true villain Steven. Come
That's
on.
right. That's right. That's
Come
right.
on.
But let me say something though.
Never.
I will say, my love for Magic, the not the game, the
Magician.
whatever Magic, the only good thing that I've ever taken from that is my ability to shuffle cards and my obsession with vintage playing cards. Those are the two things that I keep to this day. Nothing else. There's no hullabaloo, because I don't know any hullabaloo. It's all out of my head. It's great. I needed to make room for my hero knowledge. Anyway.
Living in Vegas, I've hung out with a lot of magicians. That's always the thing I'm most afraid of, is that they're always Yu-Gi-Oh players, and they always are like willing to play with unsleeved cards. It's very suspicious.
You know what? Card stock is a thing that I could talk about for 25 hours. We're not going to get into it.
And we will. That's the second half of the podcast.
Next
That's
week,
part
we'll
two. That's part
bring it
two.
back next week.
But so, okay, need to perform. I love theater. I love all that stuff. Great. Always a little back of my head be like, can I do this in front of people and they'll watch me? Is that a thing? Anyway, once I really got into the craziness that was my competitive TCG career, sort of halfway through high school to current day, there was sort of like this idea that I was the most competitive person at my local. And so whenever new people would come in, be like, oh, he's the best player we have, go talk to him about this game if you want to learn it. So I'd be the guy that like shows new people the ropes. I remember having the most fun of my life just teaching someone how to play Vanguard, because if you guys don't know, Vanguard is a card game anime, and the anime is about the card game, and so I would just do it like they do it, and it's like super fun. So that was always cool. When I got into Pokemon, I was literally taught Pokemon by a 14-year-old kid, and it was the greatest moment of my life. And then 14-year-old kid. And then I would teach like my family who were older than me how to play it at that point, and then I would just go from there. So I've always loved the idea of like infecting people with the obsession that I have. It's great. Anyway, fast forward to 2018. All right, not a iota of an idea in my head to become a content creator. Just like I watch content, I help these people. I like having any excuse to make someone listen to me talk about something that I love. Bang. I go to the 2018 Pokemon World Championships as a competitor. Okay, don't respect on the name, all right? And I meet people that I had watched. You know, people like Andrew Mahone, people like Azul Garcia, people like big names in the community from across the pond that are like the goats of the game. You know, and I'm a part of that community that I didn't think I could, and I really saw the value they added by what the people would do when they were around, or what I would do when they were around, and I could talk to them and have conversations. And I'm like, you know, you're a lot like I am. you just love this game, don't you? And they're like, yeah. It's like, you know what? Maybe there's a way I can do this thing that I like doing at my local, but to like everywhere. And so when I moved out of my apartment in college and I no longer had roommates, I was by myself. I was like, I have a random amount of free time now. And at the time, I had recently saved up like too much money to pay for my tuition. And I was like, I have extra money that I didn't budget out for this month. What am I going to do with it? And I'm like, I guess I'll buy a computer. Normally, I just buy more trading cards. But I was like, no. Maybe I'll buy a computer and I'll start thinking about streaming from that. Or I'll start thinking about videos. And that's really all that happened was I really got to experience what it was like to be a content creator in the space in terms of how they affected others in the community. And I was like, I want to do that. And I kind of already do it anyway. So what I started doing was just talking about and trying to teach people about the games that I was playing competitively at the time, which was Cardboard Vanguard, Pokemon, and Dragon Ball Super. So I made content about all three of those games. I would only stream Pokemon because at the time, webcam tournaments weren't really a normal thing that people would care about. So I would just do PTCGO, and I would just grind that for like a year. And then once I got into my senior year of college, I had to quit Dragon Ball Super because of time and graduating and trying to graduate early so I could stop spending money on college and then move out and go somewhere else, you know, and do other career type stuff. So that was all done, graduated. Coco happened. I was like, all this time that I was going to spend building my life, traveling, moving, getting jobs. Now you just have like a free year now, chill, I guess. And I was like, what am I going to do? I already quit Dragon Ball Super. I don't want to get back into that because I can't go to tournaments anyway. So I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I started playing games online. I started playing Vanguard Zero. I learned about the Digimon card game overseas. I knew there was an online community for that. I joined that. And all the while, I'm doing the content creation in the background, just kind of like, well, I'm just going to keep doing it because it's what I like doing. I'm providing to those communities. And that's when I really started to like really focus on, you know what? I've just been doing what I want. How about we try to make good stuff? Let's try to make some good content and not just F around all day. And then that's when I started finding real success. In terms of like how I think about my content nowadays, I would say it's not too different. You know, I very much focus on just trying to share my experience with these games with others. And if they learn something from that or they gain value from that, that's butter on the bagel. You know, it's just perfect. But the point is not for me to try to teach you something like, hey, what I'm doing is correct, so you should do it too. It's more like, I did this thing, it worked out, I want to talk about that. Whatever you can glean on from that, good for you, you know? That's kind of like what I think my true value lies. But if I want to take the extra mile to be like, I'm going to teach you how to play Digimon, I'm going to teach you how to play My Hero, I'll make a video about that, and that's the purpose of that. But in terms of teaching specifically as the goal is that if you learn something from me, it's not because I intended that. It's because you glommed onto it and you're like, I think that'll work for me, and then it did. Great, good for you.
That's a pretty good
my
disclaimer.
My content very much focuses on just like what I love, what I like doing, and then sharing that with others, and what comes may, right?
Awesome. That is quite the journey. Tamron Cardwell, I need to know, what was the eureka moment? What was the light bulb that went off in your head? Where did it all start for Tamron? Yes, that's his real name, Cardswell.
Yeah. In the womb, actually. My parents bred me for it. My last name is really Gardwell.
Correct.
Yeah, I sure wish I could top one of these freaking professionals, though. I only card okay currently.
It's not that much
no,
fun. You run into Froppy and go second anyways.
True. Okay, so it all started actually back in like fresh out of high school. I had a friend, my best friend, Skylar, who had a podcast called Three Hit Combo, and he was one of the guests on. And he ended up going to the Navy, and they needed a third person to fill the third hit for the combo. And so they were like, "Yo, this is my friend Tam. He's like me, but less funny, and not quite so loud." And I'm like, "Hey, my name's Tam, and I love being described that way." And I get on and I do the podcast, and it was like invigorating. Like I listen to podcasts a bunch, but I'd never been like a part of one. So learning how to talk into a mic and understand that like how to deliver information and be entertaining in that way with a group of individuals was like really fun. And so that was all the content creation. I wanted to take that idea of Three Hit Combo and I wanted to make it absolutely massive. If you look behind me, there's a playmat for a group called Kinda Funny that I absolutely adored. Loved Kinda Funny as a podcast group. They're in association with like Rooster Teeth. Like that, there's the big name, right?
Wow.
They're part of the family. And so I had a couple of buddies, James and Tyler again, from TCGU, be like, "Yo, we want to make something content creation wise, and we want to base it off of Rooster Teeth." And I go, "Whoa, that sounds really, really awesome." And they go, "None of us are really charismatic enough to host this podcast. Do you want to do it?" And I go, "Well, I have experience podcasting. I can kind of walk us through the initial thing, but I know dick all about how Universes is played. I just don't know. So I'm down to like shoot you ideas in comments or questions or whatever, and I can lead the topics and guide us and let us know when we hit our 15-minute mark to end our episode or whatever. I can do that stuff." And then that started out with previously UFS University, but then Jasco rebranded, and so then we had to rebrand because UFS isn't a thing anymore, to then TCG University. And so kind of in the same vein as Steven, I and you might know this phrase, Sam. I love edutainment. It's a Mike Ross phrase of education and entertainment put in together. Edutainment. I want to educate you and entertain you at the same time. And as a teacher, as a martial arts instructor, as like my day job, like that, I was a big fan of, you introduced it, the light bulb moments. I love the expression when somebody gets it, which is really hard to do over the internet, which is why we have the comment sections or meeting somebody at events or whatever, or getting these big long paragraphs of, "Yo, I watched your video," and blah 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 blah. And as soon as I realized that I could find that light bulb moment online, I went, "This is so much easier than screaming at 7-year-olds to bend their knee and kick higher." And I enjoy it more because this is really about my hobby. Whereas when I was 7 years old, I was like determined to do martial arts, and I kind of min-maxed my life in order to make that happen. And that dream, it's not necessarily dead, but it's not where I ended up because, I've grown as a person. And so I did TCGU for a long time, doing literally this will tell you a lot. We would do weekly recorded tournaments where we would have 7 rounds where it was essentially, we played a top 8 every week, where we had a group, a small community, like a content house. It was the TCGU dorms. Hilarious, I know. Where we would make 7 matches, 8 profiles, a podcast, and we did that for 3 separate card games. We got other experts to come in, and we would do that for over and over and over and over and over, and I loved it. And the rest of the house was like, "Yo, I'm working a 40-hour job, and I don't want to spend another 40-hour job to make this content." And I went, "Yeah, but I do want to do that." "Yeah, but I am working the 80 hours to make that happen. So like come along with me, right?" And then life stuff happens, and I end up getting an opportunity to go to quit TCGU and do something else. That falls through, but I already made an announcement, and so I was like, I guess I'm just gonna do this thing by myself. And so I did, and it picks up and it picks off, and I then like shoot to the moon. And really, I wouldn't be where I am today without the love and compassion from the TCGU house. I wouldn't be there if my best friend Skylar didn't say, "Yo, come and replace me on this funny podcast." I wouldn't be here with like a lot of really lucky happenstance had to happen in order for me to be in this position where I get to do this thing. But it really is. I enjoy that light bulb moment, and I get to share that light bulb moment through the camera, and I get to have a documented recording of that light bulb moment. It's really fun, and I'm sure you guys have this experience too, where you'll have somebody go back and watch a video from a year ago and go, "This video was sick. I learned so much. Thank you." That doesn't happen in a week-to-week class. That class is done and it's gone. It's lost to history. This being this recorded, saved medium is like this really interesting place as a content creator, as somebody who does edutainment.
That is so much of like what I want to encapsulate, right? Like the eureka moment, the being able to share all the light bulbs, all the great ideas. And like you said, like with the comment section with the chat, like that's really what we do it for, right? That's really one of the biggest parts for me, at least, is definitely getting that feedback, getting to feel like I can connect to the community in a unique way, rather than just, posting in Discords, posting on Facebook, posting in forums, things like that. But I need to know, what were some of the very first hurdles when you got started? Was there ever a point where you thought, okay, this is it, I can actually call myself a YouTuber or a streamer, a content creator, but you had just gone over that first hurdle? What was like some of the first struggles that you had, Tam?
Honestly, as soon as you click the button, you're a streamer. As soon as you click the button, you're a YouTuber. And if that's what it takes for you to continue to do it, if you need that title, then give it to yourself. Actually, I think that is the number one hurdle that a lot of people have, is just clicking the damn button. It is the hardest part of the job, is going live. When I first started, one of the big hurdles that I had personally was I needed the equipment to look good, and I don't know anything about equipment, to the point where before this stream happened, I was given tech advice about my camera. I don't know anything about it, but that stuff does matter to me, and so that's part of the you got to be good enough or you got to have the gumption just to click the button. And so I was lucky enough not to do this content creation thing when I started by myself. And so I had a lot of experts that I got to rely on when it came to the physical content of the thing. And I had to be the one to get everybody together in a schedule. And we met in a basement, and it was always after locals. And so we started content creation at like 9:30 at night, and people had work the next morning. I was like, guys, it's just an hour. Just give me an hour. And so I think the biggest hurdle that I had, honestly, was like trying to find time when a bunch of people's schedules match up. Even this 4-person event right now, even this 4-person event right now, like, it took a little bit. It was like about a week and a half of planning, and we even like had to push it back a week. We wanted to do this last week, but schedules didn't work out. So probably my biggest hurdle is time. Actually, just time.
Yeah, that's when we were talking about ideas earlier and how people like couldn't come up, Spirit was talking about helping people come up with good ideas and telling them just do what everyone else does. I kind of have the opposite problem. I want to do everything, but personal life gets in the way. Just scheduling things, having time to do every possible idea. Sometimes you just have to say, okay, this is like my lane, this is my corner, this is my niche. You find your kind of style. I did see, Steven, it seemed like you had something that you wanted to say when Tam was talking about like those early hurdles. What was some difficulties that you had to overcome and adversity that you had to break through when you first started?
So when it comes to those architectural things like Tam was talking about, like figuring out like what kind of camera to get, what kind of computer you should have, all that stuff, that to me wasn't a big hurdle, because the way that I usually approach everything is with the mindset of correct expectations. I'm an economist by trade and a psychologist by obsession. So there's always this idea that I need to think about how to incorporate something in my life before I actually commit to doing it. And so I, like with My Hero, spent the better part of 3 weeks researching everything that I needed beforehand, so that way it wouldn't be a hurdle. But one thing I will say is that no matter how much research you do, you're still going to mess up on those things, and it's going to be weighing on your mind always. So I definitely still agree with that as one of the bigger hurdles that I had to get through, was that I actually couldn't prepare for this. I did not have the skill set to be a writer, producer, performer, director, and actually a streamer all at the same time. So that is something you just have to experience. Click the button, you'll figure it out. But a hurdle that I personally had, again, similar to Tam and similar to you, was just the struggle of trying to feel like I have to be creative, because I'm not a naturally creative person. I like to think I'm a creative problem solver, but I'm not a creative person. Like, the ideas that I have are usually very boring. That's why I love TCGs. They're usually founded in logic and philosophy, and I can just theory craft all day. It's boring to everyone who isn't me, but it's super creative if you ask me. Like, oh, I wish I could spoil something that I just threw into a deck today, but I can't. It's a secret for Vegas. Get ready for it. Anyway.
Save it for Nationals.
No, secrets.
Go on.
Secrets.
Okay.
Anyway, so when it comes to like my creative process, in the beginning, I was worried about, like, I need to create something beautiful. Like, there's a video that I'm still so proud of, but I'm like, I did not need to make this. This makes no sense for me to make this. Where I brought my mom on and I would show her photos of all the pop culture things that I love and be like, who's this? And she'll call Goku from Dragon Ball Z Buffman Duke, and it's hilarious because my mom doesn't know anything about anything, and it's so great. I loved making that, and I thought it was a great idea, but it was a dumb idea for me to make architecturally for the purpose of my channel and growth. That's not how I thought about it back then. And I will say, when that video did poorly, even though I thought it was a great idea, it demotivated me. It made me be like, I can't be creative in this. And that was a hurdle that I had, was I felt I had to be to get success, but then I wouldn't get success, and I didn't know what to do. So it was just a loop of unfortunateness. Anyway, what I learned, and that I do nowadays, which I love, and I recommend anyone do, is this thing that Gary Vee, a big marketer, talks about in social media and in virtual media. He likes the statement. He likes the statement, document, don't create. And it's the idea that I kind of follow to this day, where it's like, I just do what I do in front of a camera now, and I show it to people. That is the extent of the work that goes in. And if it goes, great. If it doesn't, who cares? It was so low effort, it doesn't actually hurt my motivation. And that gives me not only the motivation to want to try something creative, but it gives me the ability just to keep pumping out content, find that success through the natural lottery machine that is social media sometimes. And then once I get that, create a snowball effect of momentum that I can use to get that creative idea in there, and it'll actually succeed. And then I'll be like, oh, let's do that again, and again and again and again. And then it actually becomes like its own machine versus this thing that I have to constantly put work into that I'm not getting anything out of, and thus burnout happens. So that's my big thing, is to put less pressure on yourself to actually create something and just start making content. Creating something and making content are apparently two different things. And once I learned that, that was my light bulb moment. You know, it was great.
Yeah, and kind of to tie the two answers together, just my personal experience was coming from film school, like my college days. So you had someone who knew how to do camera stuff. You had someone who knew how to do the sound. You had someone who knew how to do the lights. And having to do it all myself sucks. Having to reach out and say, okay, I still need a second light. Amazon still won't just send me the second light that I paid for, which is why one half of my face is always brighter than the other. So having those resources, having the ability to say, look, this is how I want it set up, this is how it's going to look, I think that's actually genius and something I need to work on doing myself, like planning ahead how to fit things into my life. Aspir, I think you're the only one we haven't heard from with this. So early hurdles, early difficulties, was there like a challenge that was maybe unique to you?
So I mean, this is something you hear from creators all the time, right? But like, I don't think anyone really gets into content creation supposed to be like, all right, I'm gonna be successful, I'm gonna be this is gonna be my life, right? Like, I think a big aspect of it is just, I wanna make shit, right? So for me, it's like, I just wanna make stuff, I wanna have fun, and I wanna express myself in this thing I'm enjoying, and that's kind of where it all starts, right? So funny enough, I think hurdles come once you start realizing that you're becoming a content creator, because then it becomes something real that's beyond just your passion of, I'm doing this thing for me, right? And then you start thinking about, okay, well, if growth is my focus, I need to orientate myself through here. If quality is my focus, I need to do this, right? It's like, at the end of the day, we all work together, and I truly believe in high tides raise all boats, but every viewer that's watching Steven's stream isn't watching my stream, isn't watching Tam's stream. Like, that's the reality of the landscape in its own right. So it's managing how to flow through all of that probably has been like the biggest thing in terms of like, how can I expand the community, how can I do well, and at the end of the day, if like there's 1,000 viewers watching things for My Hero, all the better for us. Let's spread the love, right? So and I guess for me the biggest thing is just, I came in this as a creative and I learned how to do everything. I'm self-taught in the entire Adobe suite, and then I just threw on a camera and be like, all right, screw it. I'm gonna put my face on it because I'm egocentric like that and my face needs to be on my thumbnails. So it got to a place where I think my biggest hurdle is actually learning to step away from being the guy who does everything, right? Like letting people be able to come in and help out or support me in a way that'll allow me to be able to make better stuff. And even in my professional life, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. And now it's like, all right, now I got 1,000 things on my head and it's getting a little bit tough to handle. And I think it very much leans into Tam's like, you only got so much time, right? Yeah. So like leverage people, leverage your ability to be able to push on time. And then, when it comes to like overcoming all of that, I guess the moment that clicked for being a content creator for me was like, well, I showed up at a tournament and someone said Aspira, and I didn't turn my head because like no one in real life really referred to me as Aspira at the time. And I was like, wait, holy shit, whoa, what's up? And at that time I wasn't that big, right? Like I was only like 600-700 subs, but like it was at that moment like, oh, okay, there's some reality to the fact that people are watching my stuff. Right. And I think meeting that first person is what, right? Because like when we look at the numbers, they're numbers, right? Like you can kind of extrapolate like, holy heck, 100 people are watching my stuff, but that doesn't really sit in until like you imagine like a room of 100 people and then like literally all of them just staring at you, and then that scales like, yo, you got 1,000 views on your video, that's 1,000 people just looking at your face. So contextualizing what is a statistic and turning it into an IRL experience is probably what cemented that for me. And then meeting that expectation has probably been the biggest hurdle, taking that and taking it a step further. And it's just understanding where I best fit in a space. I've gotten to a point now where I want to understand where I can best serve my time. And that probably involves incorporating other people into what I'm trying to do and stuff. And that's just something I need to get better at still to this day.
Yeah, I love that. I love that a lot, actually. To kind of tie two ideas together, one of the chatters who's been around for a couple streams now mentioned, you put things in perspective, right? And Steven talked about having adequate expectations, right? Having accurate and adequate expectations where if you feel bad because you're only streaming to 10, 20, 30, 50 people compared to the people who stream to thousands, right? Imagine being in that same room with them. Imagine being the teacher in front of a classroom full of 20 people, and think of how many people struggle with that, right? Think of how many people who would have the public speaking bug kind of take over and just grip them. So it's a lot of perspective that you have to bring with it when you're going out, putting yourself out there into the universe. But now that you guys have been doing it for a while, talking about some of the struggles, some of the hurdles, what is the most rewarding part of being a content creator for you? And I'm going to force you to narrow it down to one. I've let a lot of answers slide. I've let you guys kind of put in a couple different answers for everything. I need you to narrow it down to one singular thing. What is one aspect that you just find really rewarding, that you enjoy more than any other? True Champion Steven, let me know, please.
Steven, you're up.
What was the question? I was changing my hat. Sorry.
I saw you moving the headset, so I was like, you probably didn't hear me. So we've talked about the hurdles. We've talked about the difficulties. What is the most rewarding part to you? You have to keep it to one answer. Just narrow it down to one thing that is the most rewarding aspect to you when it comes to creating content.
Well, I mean, it's like George said, once someone stops becoming a viewer and starts becoming an actual person that thanks you for what you've done, like, that's when it's like, wow, what I did mattered to somebody? Okay. All right, let's go. Like I remember, I can't honestly remember the first time that someone recognized me from content that I was doing, but I'll tell you what, I think it's happened a total of 12 times. That I go outside and people like actively go, whoa, when they shouldn't have, like at the grocery store or at my actual job. I was like, oh, this is weird. I have to like sell you a pool now. Okay, that's cool. So much. It was weird. And
You
it's so
subbed?
real.
5% off?
Yeah, right. We're in California. It's tough. Anyway, what I will say though is that I don't think I realized how much actual validation this would give me that wasn't coming from me. Like I'm not in this for someone to say I did a good job. I'm not in this for someone to say thank you. I'm in this just to have fun and hopefully to just blab on about the things that I love. The fact that people like that is just a byproduct. So for me to get like these great feelings was unexpected and was amazing, and definitely leads to me keeping doing it. But it's not the sole reason I'm here. It is so rewarding, but it's not the reason I'm here. It's great. Like it's the reason I stay, but it's not the reason I'm here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I 100% understand. I had a similar feeling, when you had messaged me. I think the first message was something like, oh, are you the Sam Tate from Ace Maneuvers? Are you like the guy? Because at the beginning I did have Brett Hillman helping me out. He's become busy with family, having toddlers, things like that. But having that message where it's like someone's clarifying who I am was actually kind of cool, because most of the people who know me, who know the Ace Maneuvers tag knew me before that, right? And so this was one of the few times where someone coming from outside the circle reached out to me, and that was very cool. Tamarin Cardwell, do you have anything that you can pick out as the single most rewarding factor of content creation?
You mean besides the money, the
yeah.
sick dollar bills coming in?
Yeah, flowing
The
in dollar
rubles.
bills talking about
The
TCGs.
4 days making thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Maybe like 2 gallons of gas?
Yeah, right. No, I think probably the biggest rewarding thing is just community, right? Like if I could sum it up in one word, is just like getting and fostering a group of people to have like-minded ideas and opinions. Discord's really good about this. Twitch is really good about this. And then meeting those like-minded people IRL. It is crazy getting random messages. I say to my parents, I'm at a movie and I look at my phone and I have 3 messages from total strangers being like, yo, I love your video. Can you look at my deck? It's like, no. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. But no, I can't do that 14 times a day. It doesn't happen. But like it is a really good feeling to feel validated in the fact of like people care about your opinion and so on and so forth. But that's as somebody who has I'll say the word, who's made it, right? It was really rewarding to have somebody to have a video hit 50 views, right? Over on TCGU. Love that. Out of this world, being able to take something from nothing and make it into something that people cared about. It actually insane. And this is like one step further. Like this is where I'm at currently of like the most rewarding part is new. But back when we first started, which is kind of what this whole idea is like from the grassroots, just having somebody just care is really the true reward about it. It's I think you're gonna be hard pressed to get a room of content creators and say that that's not the most rewarding part. Truly,
yeah. Since creating content, I have become a better commenter. I have become someone who gives better feedback because now I understand that it seems silly when you're on the side, especially of like thousands of comments. Anytime you've left a comment on a YouTube video, you probably will disappear. It'll be nothing to you. But the impetus for it from your side was to give that feedback, and that was really something that I underrated. I want to know from you, Aspira, what is there something you've talked a lot about the rewarding aspects of the community of content creation before, but if you had to pick one specific thing, is there anything that sticks out?
Going into my YouTube dashboard and seeing that my most recent upload is a 1 out of 10, baby.
That is such a content creator answer, and I love it. Only we will appreciate that. No one else will appreciate that.
The other guys have like threw it together so well, right? I think it's everything that comes beyond your initial expectations of why you got into it. I did it because I loved it and I love hearing myself, and then you know, like I said, I'd probably still be doing it if no one really cared about it. But the extra validation that, you know, like Steven puts it succinctly, that what didn't need to come from me was a huge aspect of it. So, you know, they've touched on community. I'm gonna touch on a more corporate aspect. You know, there's something about, you know, a Bandai or a Jasco Games or someone being like, yo, we like what you did with everything that we worked on, and we want you here to present our game or be a face of the game or do this or that. Like that there's like it is so directly ego feeding, but like rewarding as well to be like, you know, I'm having an impact, and that sense of impact, and then wanting to be, you know, propulsing that even further because the work that I did all by myself without, you know, needing that in the first place has allowed it to feel immensely rewarding. And then it just, you know, propagates from there. You know, your first opportunity, do it well, present yourself as someone who's competent, presents itself to another opportunity, you just kind of keep going from there. So it's I'd say on the more corporate end, that's definitely been one of the biggest rewarding things about, you know, having done this in the first place, and has led me to being able to do what I do today. So like Tam said, a lot of happy happenstances to get me into the situation I am today.
Yeah, me and Steven are like, yeah, we don't know what that's like. We're out here struggling. Yeah, we don't got big Jasco books behind us.
Okay.
Got the branding. You gotta get the J. You gotta get official.
Yeah.
By the way, I do want to point out before we move on, Tam, I'm so sorry I ruined your experience at Doctor Strange asking about my Shoto 2 deck. My bad, bro. My bad.
It's okay. Hey, it happens. It happens. Yeah, you're good. You're good. You are
Now
not
we
the only
know.
one.
Public apology. I know better now. Thank you.
It's okay. I was the guy that commented on Asper's video. Oh, you're jumping on this ship, huh? Yeah, it all comes in circles.
Oh man, it's super weird for me because I feel like I'm easily the worst deck builder of anyone who's ever made content for this game. And so when people ask me if this looks good, I get so nervous because I'm the funny meme guy. Like, I don't even do deck profiles unless I make a top cut. So we've talked about the hurdles in the beginning, and we've talked about the better parts of being a content creator. But for the chat out there, I believe that they would want to know, is there any specific differences you've come across either in the community or while making content for Universes compared to other games that you've been a part of, whether it was, you know, streaming an event, videos? Is there any stark difference that you notice when you put out content for the My Hero card game versus anything else that you've done? I think we're going to start with Tamron on this one, just because I know a little bit more, you know, about what you've done in the past when it comes to other card games.
I think like the biggest thing here is I am a My Hero content creator. Before that, I was a Universes content creator. Before that, I did a comedy podcast. So like the idea of making content for other games, I dabbled in Flesh and Blood, but it was only ever ankle deep because I didn't know much about the game, and I couldn't make those informative. I couldn't make an informative video, right? Like it was literally an opinion, and opinions suck without like real weight behind it. Like it's okay to have an opinion as long as like there's some amount of fact. Just being just off the wall hot takes, like it only gets you clicks and it doesn't really give you any substance. So. So some of the biggest things when it comes to hurdles in the beginning, when it comes to doing content creation, is just knowing the subject. You kind of got to know what you're talking about, and it's really easy to get memed on when you don't, because there are going to be people who are old heads enough to be like, no, you're wrong, and then they'll blow you up in the comments. They'll as soon as they see that you don't know what you're talking about, they click off. And that's the nice people. The nice people just stop watching. The mean people dislike the video and share to their friends and say, "Hey, let's make fun of this person." And that sucks. That sucks as a content creator. But like in comparison to this, I want to say that Universes doesn't do this, but that's not true. Universes definitely does this. I mean, we saw from Aspera's message. That's probably one of the nicest things that was said about on your video. It is. You just got to know your stuff. You got to know what you're talking about. And if you don't know, get somebody on who does, or or frame it in a way that, hey, I'm learning this game with you guys. Let's talk and talk to the camera and be like, if there's anything that I missed, let me know in the comments down below. Just making sure that you cover all your bases. And it's if you try to come in as an expert and you're not, people know. People just know.
Yeah. Is this a bad time to bring up Damnation?
No, because I was correct. There was not a single thing about that card that I was wrong about. If you go, okay, all right, let's. If you go back, I shared opinions. It was a 2/5 non-block. It didn't do anything in the current format. It didn't do anything. Yes, Scott Summon had a good point. There are a couple good foundations, but you just play through them. Okay,
The symbols were in a bad spot, guys. The symbols. It was an issue. It was a format issue.
I'm not the one who got a bunch of card text wrong on cards. That was my fellow co-host, but I should have corrected them. You're right. You're right, Sam.
I think that's like one of the first memes I remember from the community. So that one's near and dear to my heart.
His video, Scott Summon's video, taught me so much. His videos are so weirdly named. I think it was just like UFS Universe's Reno PTC review or something like that, where like in the course of 20 minutes, like 3 experts of the game get like 5 pieces of information wrong. We had nobody behind the scenes fact checking us. We were saying that enhancers were forms. We were saying block modifiers didn't work. We were saying that some mechanics triggered in some way. This is an interesting choice because X, Y, and Z interacts with X, Y, and Z. And he would just put a bunch of question marks up on the screen of like, that's not how that works even a little bit. And it was really, really humbling, really, really eye-opening to have that video happen. Because it changed how our content happened. From then on, if we had 4 people who were down to make content, 3 of them were on and 1 of them was off. We had to have a producer every time to make sure that they were fact-checking us, as opposed to just 3 jabronis sitting at a table just like talking. With that said, though, Damnation is a bad card. It was a bad card in the format. It is okay now because it has a 3 mid-block and a deadlock enhance. Please, on to the next person.
All right. We'll move on from the Damnation memes. But I do love the idea that being willing to do something wrong, right, to learn to do it right, that you're always going to learn something no matter how good you do it the first time. So I approach things as the idea that it's never going to be perfect. So no matter how bad I do, I can always do better. No matter how good I do, I can always do better. And there I get sort of a zero-sum outcome. But I want to come to Espira. Espira, we've talked a little bit about, your early interactions with the community. Is there anything that stands out between the two? Is there anything, maybe a defining characteristic of the My Hero Academia community versus other communities that you've been a part of?
So while my, first interaction wasn't the smoothest, I will say that the reinforcement, it's not, and maybe it's because the other card games got too big too fast to a point, or just have that 20-year legacy where like it's kind of hard to kind of like pinpoint one community, right? Like you talk about the Pokemon community, you talk about the Northeast Coast community, you talk about the West South Coast community. SoCal is completely different from what they're doing over in Florida,
in NorCal,
yeah,
different. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, whereas UVS has this very organic, it's a game that's withstood over a decade on the backs of like an odd 150 players, right? Like just that off the rip is absolutely phenomenal. And I think, the game growing from this very one organic place, what do you hear all the time whenever you talk about other UVS players? The first word that comes out of their mouth 9 times out of 10, community, right? And there's this very strong notion about this is how someone in our community adheres to, this is how we act, this is how we treat. 9 times out of 10.
There's exceptions to every rule, guys.
Always. So I will say, versus a lot of other communities where not only is there pockets, but there's not always an agreement about how we conduct ourselves or the way that things are done. I think UVS has stood very well in this. Our biggest strength is each of us. Our game survived over a decade because of the community that we have built into it, the values that we've entrusted in each other, and the ones that we entrust into newer players as they come in. So there's a lot of reinforcement of that. When I make more content, when I talk to people about the card game, and when they are feeling like they need to defend that and they strike out a little bit, I know it comes from a place of wanting to defend that sacred that sacred notion. Obviously, as the game grows, some of that will be lost, as there are pockets that will grow. But if they all come from that same root of, hey, these are the things that we stand for, I see, the game being able to grow into a big thing where the community started off being its strength and is one of the things that can carry it forward. So it's definitely the notion that rings the most true versus a lot of our card games that I've played.
And it really comes from all the way from the top, right? Like Jasco preaches these things as well, to the point of like, look at the back of your pack wrapper. There's a little redemption skull. And that was not because Jasco wanted to give away a bunch of free cards, but that was because Jasco didn't want UVS players to be terrible human beings and leave their trash in card stores. It was literally about, I want my players to pick up after themselves. I'm tired of going to these other big card games and there just being so much trash everywhere on these tables that the store owner has to pick up. Nah, you keep your pack wrappers, you send them into us, and Jasco is the one who picked up your store, not the players. And
that's ashamed.
Like from the top all the way down.
I'm so ashamed, y'all. I had all my wrappers from Crimson Rampage in a little corner here, and we have a cleaning service that does our house. They did it this morning, and they took them all away.
Oh.
I had probably, I don't even want to count. I never counted. I was ready to ship them out like this weekend to get all those
6
provisionals.
6
This
to make
man
you feel
went
good.
diamond.
It was 6 wrappers total.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. But I was like, I'm glad they're gone, but I was gonna get like good stuff because that's cool stuff. I still need Recipros. I need those.
Oh man. No, I do love that you mentioned that it comes from the top down, because living in Vegas, I do have a few more opportunities to interact with the Jasco knots, if you will, the Jasco employees, and for years now, I wouldn't say, we're not chums, we're not friends, I'm not a shill, I'm not an insider, I've never been an employee, but it's always been a part of their philosophy that the community has to be a part of the game. It's always been a part of their philosophy that showing up, that being present does matter. And it's I probably have a very different perspective from that compared to other playgroups, because it's easier for them to access us, to access our locals. But I've heard plenty of stories of people who have met the new investors, the new owners, who have met Lohan, who have met Paul, who have, we saw they traveled to Omaha together, right? Like everyone showed up in Omaha. And so like it's very important for them to be present where they can, despite being, a small growing company. That being said, Steven, you have played in a couple tournaments now. You have broadcasted yourself. I've seen quite a few names pop in. Everyone's very curious. Whenever we get a new member of the community, anyone that they can get access to, they're very nosy. We're a very nosy community at our core. But I want to know, is there anything that has struck you, having been a part of so many card game communities that you talked about, is there anything that struck you as something very different or special or unique about the Universes community?
One like shell shock feature that happened when I was kind of being brought into this new community that's never really happened to me before is usually when I start a new card game, it's a new card. It just came out, that card game. So there isn't this group of old heads, as y'all like to call them, that are, the vets that like people will go to, or that are trying to nurture this community and take care of newer players. That was a nice thing to have people pop in and be like, hey, I saw you're doing this. Hey, Sue's a crazy deck, but I'm glad you realized it's great, so go get him. I was like, oh, thank you, it's awesome. And I remember early on, I was able to identify just by who I would talk to or who I knew locally, who was an old head and who wasn't. And I was like, I like this, because I liked the people that got in because they were like, oh, my hero has a game now? Cool, let's play that. And I love the people that are like, yeah, so Lord Raptor was this deck that played all flashes, so like Flash is really good. You're gonna want to try and find room for those in your deck if you can. I love that dichotomy from the get-go. To me, this new thing, but I had like these vets and these people that I could not only share in my experiences, but then also gain new knowledge from. it felt
Yeah.
like I had all the resources available to me that I've never had before. Like I remember when I was jumping into Digimon, it only existed for like a month in Japan, and what I would do to learn was I would just watch Japanese YouTube videos of people playing while reading the English translated rule book that some guy put on Discord once. And I was like, so he's doing a security check. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that makes sense. You know, it was nice to know that I wasn't alone and that there were new people. It was also nice to know that, oh, hey, there's people that I can turn to if I really need help with something. So I just love the resources that were available that normally aren't available to me when I start new card games.
That is something I never really considered. Most of the time when I come across a game myself, it's either been solved or been solved and died, or been solved, died, then was resurrected by the community. You know, like having fan sets come out and things like that. So that's actually something that I've probably taken for granted and didn't even realize it when I came into the game, having assets like, you know, Shane Duckworth available, and like the old school forums had very good players that were very active, you know. So that's something I never even really considered, just because of how small the community is. It felt like everyone was tight knit, you know, immediately. And speaking of community, I talked about briefly a little bit. We've had our first formats tournaments conclude, and with the advent of webcam, the community has been brought closer together than ever before. It was truly a blessing for me personally to be able to go into the online sphere and really expand my player base, right? Like, it was almost like my locals now are everybody available on that day. And I want to know, do you have any excellent stories or any favorite moments that you've had in a tournament specifically? Or I guess possibly with the community at large, but we talked about the community, but like specifically in the competitive environment in these tournaments. True Champion Steven, you're our hardcore competitive gamer here. Is there any like awesome stories that you have from playing in tournaments?
Well, for my hero specifically, only having played 4 tournaments of the game, I will say that there is one moment that I was very humbled, but also like, wow, the perspective of that was pretty crazy. And it does have to be round 8 of the first provisional that I played in, which I think was provisional 4? PPG won that one. I fought against Nick Reagan. He was playing Sato. First time playing that character. Had to read what it did. Didn't know what it did. Drew a lot of cards. Stun. Scary. Cool. Love it. Had to know what order did. Heroic Lineage. Stupid card. Cool. And I realized after talking with him, like, oh, he's been playing this game since the beginning. And, like, we would have a fun conversation. He would talk about, like, retro or standard. And I'm like, I don't know what those are, but that's cool. You get after it, King. And then he asked me at the beginning, like, do you want to ID? Hindsight, had I would have gotten top 16 in my first ever provisional, second ever tournament. Would have been crazy. I was like, I only have a 30% win percentage. I'm XO2. I'll go XO3. I have never in my entire life playing Pokemon, Cardfight Vanguard, Yu-Gi-Oh, X game ever seen an XO3 with this win percentage beat any X2. So I am not going to take the ID, regrettably. Lo and behold, people that should have ID'd didn't, and 18 was the cutoff. No 17s. There was one 17 in there. And I was literally like, had I just taken the ID, would have But the memorable part was that I was able to still, because of the brokenness that was Sue and my understanding of how to stop and block and do all these things, I was really focusing on fundamentals because I knew I couldn't stop what I couldn't think ahead because I didn't know what his deck was going to do. Turns out Reciprocal Burst is a hell of a card. Have Tape plus Ultra. Anyway, so I still got it close, you know, lost game 1, won game 2. Game 3 was literally, did I draw plus Ultra or did I not draw plus Ultra? I had 4 in there because I sided into them. And I didn't, you know, it was a very, like, that was so close when it really shouldn't have been. And it would have been the craziest story had I won. But it turns out none of it should have mattered because I should have been smart enough to be like, maybe we should just trust our instincts. He offered the ID. He knows more about this game than I do. I should listen to him. But yeah, so it's a good story in the sense that it taught me a lot, but it's a bad story in the sense that it's heartbreaking, you know? So it's a catch-22 really in terms of stories.
Hilariously enough, I believe that's the same event where he made it to semifinals off of people who had other plans that day. I think that Nick Reagan...
It would have been a free top 4. I would have gotten the same record that I got in my last divisional by doing nothing.
Yeah.
Just won that game.
that was the event where Nick was like, "Oh, my top 16 opponent's not here. I guess I get a break." He showed up for top 8. He's like, "Oh, my top 8 opponent just left. I guess I'll see
Must
you
be
in top 4."
nice.
It's okay. Daniel got the revenge for us Zoo players by kicking him out. It was great. But Nick played awesome. That deck was so sick. I want to play Order Sato so bad.
And then Daniel also made top 16 and then quit and gave his opponent a free buy in the very next tournament.
True.
A lot of
Hey, he
lot of
saved
day
me from
oneers.
another floppy mirror. I'm chill with that. Thank you.
Hey.
A lot of day oneers who still make it to day 2. I'm gonna go to Spira on this one. I know that you haven't been able to play like any official tournament. So, is there any events that you have been able to play in, or just like a favorite moment from playing the game? I guess since specifically the webcam tournaments are not something that you can participate in.
Yeah, so that is the tough part, right? Like I love the card game, but I unfortunately don't get the opportunities to play as much as I can, especially since OP is kind of shut out for me. But I had one tournament where I played with Shoto and I did my thing and that was fun. So and there wasn't anything too crazy because I was still kind of learning the game I was going along, and there's only so much you can pick up from that, especially when you're really only focusing. So but that said, I've played a ton of webcam. So to pull it back from just talking webcam and my experience with webcam, I love this story, so I love sharing it. I'm playing in this webcam tournament, and like I can tell Dragon Ball, yeah. So I'm playing a webcam tournament, and you can tell the camera's kind of wobbly, and I'm not entirely sure what's going on, especially since I'm seeing this guy, and it's like a third-person view. Like, the camera's basically behind him, so it's like I'm playing a third-person gameplay. I'm like, what's going on here? So anyways, I can see him talking to the camera, but it's not to me. Turns out, this guy convinced his girlfriend to hold up his smartphone for the entirety of the tournament to record his gameplay.
Bruh.
So like we're 20 minutes and you can see her shifting from one hand to another, swapping it because her hand's starting to get tired.
Crazy.
He didn't actually though. Like, is this video posted?
No, it's I lost the VOD forever ago. I should have recorded it, but like it was such a it was an amazing experience. And then I mentioned it to someone I was playing against 2 months earlier who's buddies with them. I'm like, yo, funniest moment ever, blah blah. He's like, yeah, she's not with him no more. I'm like, damn, I wonder why.
I wonder.
Oh no.
Man,
Irreconcilable differences.
I want to track down his video. I want to find the cell phone footage of him commentating his game.
Oh no,
So
but
funny.
that was such a king. Like, first off, just playing a card game, third-person view made me feel like I was in a video game right off the rip. So, and that said though, the things have opened up in a way that, like, I'll be able to play in, like, let's say Unfun Stuff. He's having his tournament this Friday. I'll be able to jump into those. So if there's ever a Wednesday weekly where some other Justgonian jumps in, I'll be able to play into those, right? And we're lining up some events so that maybe people who go to, like, let's say the Vegas Regional, there'll be opportunities to be able to play against Justgonians and designers and stuff like that. So yeah.
Sweet.
So stuff like that should be, so there'll be more opportunities because it is something I want to do more, right? Like, I love card games. I love playing, and the ability to not really play and organized play, because I am competitive. I don't, I'm lazy and I don't test, but the guy in here, and like Tam, you and me know that from commentating this most recent regional, that commentating tournaments really makes you want to play tournaments, right?
Yeah. Very, very much so.
Steven,
A lot of
when it came
FOMO.
to when it came to the World Championship, you're just like, oh, bro, if I was playing this game right now, like,
I legit said no to the Miami DigiFest so I could play in it because I knew the week before I would have so much FOMO from not doing
Right.
from doing the commentating there. I was like, I gotta play because I won't get able to anymore.
Yeah, I think I mentioned
so-
both times I've done the commentary now. The thing I'm most surprised about is how much fun I have because I go into it knowing I want to play so badly.
Yeah,
I
100%. So.
I consider myself a player first. Do you consider yourself a player first, Ispira?
I think I'm a content creator first at this point. I've gotten to a point where I think my drive for the game definitely stems from me creating stuff for it. So like now, like there's still like competitive guys. Like let's say I was playing in a world championship. at that point I would probably actually practice. So, like when I played Magic, I used to play competitively. I used to play in, I was lining up to play in the Pro Tour and stuff like that. I used to spend weeks upon weeks upon weeks preparing for the Grand Prix that was happening in my city, and I still have that edge inside of me. But I will say a big thing that the webcam world has lent itself to is that my tournaments are content driven. And for a lot of that stuff, I'd rather have like a good time with I went to the finals of like a Dragon Ball tournament with like a huge meme deck, and that was a good time, right? So like it's if I can have a good time doing what I want and like creating the experience that other people enjoy, at this point in my career, I've gotten to a point where I'll orientate that first. But I still have that huge competitive drive where I'll try and do whatever I can to the most competitive of my abilities. And if it wasn't for the fact that someone would tell me like, hey, come commentate Worlds or commentate Nats, and I was going into those tournaments where content wouldn't be the driving aspect, then I would go super competitive and be a player first. But at the moment, I am very content driven from a player aspect. I won't make content about stuff that I don't care about as a player, right? Like that's just the reality of it. I still need to care as a player to make content about it because it's a passion project at the end of the day. But I do align myself with content first these days.
I want to hear Steven's answer to this too.
So for me, when it comes to being a player first or a content creator first, I am definitely a player first. No questions asked. I will make no exceptions about like what's better for me competitively versus what's better for me content wise. Like, so let's say, for example, I know that the best deck is Suigan for the upcoming tournament, but I'm like, oh, I really want to just stream 12 more hours of me creepy realizationing people after sticky ballsing them. Maybe not people are going to enjoy that, but I want to win. And saying, hey, I won this tournament with Sue is way cooler than saying, hey, I lost this tournament with Yuga Aoyama. So I definitely will always care more about how I'm competitively doing. Now, that being said, I have recently said, and still actively say this all the time, me making content isn't because I don't need to be making content to be enjoying these games. Like I don't play My Hero because now I can make content about My Hero. I don't play Digimon because I can make content about Digimon. I love those games and I'm playing them, and so I will make content about them because that's what I'm doing. Again, my content is very much shaped around what I am currently doing, what I am currently enjoying, and that just happens to be these two games that I'm obsessed with. So, that's where it goes for me. I've been quoted for saying, if everything about YouTube and Twitch just poof went away, and I couldn't make content anymore, my life wouldn't change at all. I don't need this to succeed for me to be happy and for me to be pleased with what I'm doing. So in a way, it kind of frees me to like not worry about it, but I still feel that pressure of like, I want to put on a good show for people when I am there. But kind of harkening back to what Tam was talking about earlier, was like, people can smell when you're not authentic. If I don't actually know anything about this game, I can't pretend that I do. I'm not playing this, Universe's old head character that just suddenly appeared for people. They know I'm not one, So for me to authentically enjoy something is the way that I authentically enjoy it. And that's by playing the best deck, playing it the best way I know how to, and being super salty when all I needed to do was draw one more attack in 12 card hands, even though I self-assured for 4 more and didn't get it at all. I will authentically be salty, authentically be excited, authentically be boring if that's what's happening. And I think people realize that and they enjoy that sometimes, not always.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in that, like, honestly, that halfway in between spot, right? Like, I want to be a really solid content creator, but because I'm in this idea of edutainment, right, entertainment, and mostly education, it's really hard to feel like you're learning something from a guy who goes X3 drops.
Oh yeah, I've had talks with that people all the time. Look, here's what I'll say is about that specifically is when it comes to the reason you're putting a video out, I don't think it matters at all how good or bad you are at the game, because your perspective on something is going to be different than someone else's, and that's what's going to be important. Don't get me wrong, it's super easy when you could be like, hey, here's a top 16 deck profile, I don't need to explain to you why it's good, here's proven information. There's a little bit more work to be done. But if you think, hey, this Yuga life deck is super crazy, I think it could beat X, Y, and Z, and you show an example, I would say that's a valid video. You don't need something like an actual performance to validate it. You just need your information, your reasoning, and that's enough for someone. Then it is. If it's not, then it's not. There's nothing you can do about that. Don't worry about what other people say is correct or incorrect information. If you think it's a good idea, then you're being authentic in making that video and trying to share it with someone to better their experience. Who cares about anything else?
Yeah, totally, completely agree.
But I totally get
I'm in this halfway spot. Yeah.
Like, you want to do well so you can make content about it and not feel like you have to explain yourself. It's
100%.
That's a
Yep.
sweet spot. And when that happens, it's great. But don't
Yeah.
think you need that.
Correct.
So we talk about you making the content. You're in front of the camera. You're broadcasting out there to the people, to your community. But do you watch any My Hero Academia CCG content? And if you do, what kind of content do you enjoy watching the most? And or what kind of content do you wish existed out there for you to watch? Tamron Cardwell, we're going to start with you on this one.
I love podcasts. Podcasts make my day. I don't listen to music anymore. I just don't do it. I actually have like a singular band. The only music that I listen to is on DMCA free, and it's only while I'm streaming. I just don't do it. So I podcast. I listen to podcasts over and over and over again.
Note to self, start
Personally-
a podcast.
Yeah, I would love to do a podcast. I love sitting here and just waxing poetic about this card game. I gotta find a good name. That's the one thing I can't find. Anywho, I digress.
Coordinated effort.
Coordinated effort, so my podcast can get banned.
The band podcast. Love that.
We were going to do Coordinated Effort as a tournament name, I think, but then it got banned, and we were like, eh.
Whoops. So I'm gonna answer your question in the opposite way. Here's the things that I don't watch. I don't watch box openings. I don't watch match videos. I sometimes watch profiles, but I honestly look at it more from a what are you doing as a content creator side, as opposed to what are you doing with the subject or the meat and potatoes of what that content is, right? So I think that there is this careful line that you have to draw when you are absorbing content from the thing that you make. It's very easy if you watch every single My Hero piece of content out there to accidentally echo chamber what other content has been made. If it is one of my biggest downfalls, I feel like, and I love you when I watch everything that Unfun Stuff does, because they only do podcast stuff, and it's really easy to be like, well, Chris Bromley said, or well, Phil Birch's take is, and it's really easy to just echo what they say and not have your own thing, which is why honestly I've stopped watching a lot of their things so religiously, so that I can have my own opinions, my own takes, so that it's a better experience for the people out there who are watching me for something else. And I just talk to these people privately as opposed to watching their content publicly.
Yeah.
What do I wish existed more? The main thing that I wish, and this is I wish would come back. Where's Slim Jim? I think market reports are so important for a new card game. Telling people what to buy, when to buy, whatever, and that's not content that I feel like I can make. I feel like I am so trash with numbers and finances. That and reading where a market's going to go. I can tell you what cards are good, but I don't know. Like Nitro Explosion Ignition, I thought it was gonna be a $40 card for the rest of its life. It's shot up to 70 or some shit. Like I would not have called that in a million years. And so that's just not my content, but I wish it existed.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the Unfun Stuff, boys. Where for me, I'm a big fan of the culture. One of my favorite things about card games, which I'm probably going to do a whole video on sometime this summer, is the slang, the language of card games, like how it creates its own mythos. You create your own language through it, and I think podcasts really do bring that out. Podcasts really do. Yeah. Like the player's expression, the player personality, more so than just the documenting that we talked about earlier in the stream. True Champion Steven, I want to know what My Hero Academia card game content do you watch, if any, and if not, is there content that you're looking for?
Well, as I know you're aware, I've watched every single person on this panel because I needed to learn how to play the game, and that's what y'all do. So I'm in a rare position where technically I think I've seen every person that's actively making card game content about My Hero. And you know what? That's a little life hack that I have for people, is if you have the time, I don't always have the time to do this for every game that I play, but watch Like, if you really want to know what a meta is like, don't look for the top 16 breakdown from a tournament. Look for the locals winning deck profiles. If what you want to do is be a local legend for the next 4 weeks, if that's what your goal is, that's what's going to do it for you. Like figuring out, oh my God, this one guy played this super hot Chaos Denki deck. It didn't do near as good as at a provisional, but at my local where everyone's playing Sue, it's going to destroy them. So it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a provisional, but you get the idea. And that's my little life hack for the day. Anyway, when it comes to me, I don't. For games that I'm actively playing, actively being part of the community, I don't watch content for them, because usually I'm making content for them as well. Like, I don't watch anything for Digimon. Not similar to what Tam said, I don't want to echo chamber people, but not in the sense that I don't think my own opinions are unique enough, just because I don't want to accidentally lead it to believe that I'm misrepresenting how I come up with something or what I choose to do. And I usually don't look for people in my game for inspiration on how to make a new project. Like, if I want to know what's a cool shot that I can do for a box opening that's no one's done before, I'll look at the best people that make Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon box openings versus like specifically My Hero, because I'm not watching it for the box itself. I'm watching it for the production techniques, which is different. But when it comes to specifically My Hero, I don't think anything's missing. Like Tam said, market watching would be great, but I'm the worst person to ask advice for on marketing, because usually, or like finances in card games, is I budget everything out. I never spend more than that. If I have to, I just won't buy the cards. You know, I'm very utility focused when it comes to, if it's more expensive than I allocated money for, I'm not going to get it until it is. I can make do with other stuff. You know, I'll figure it out. But in terms of something that I really like, I would say don't be afraid of echoing someone if that someone is Phil Birch, who I believe is a world champion of this game. Is that incorrect?
National champion,
Phil Birch has
technically.
done nothing in My Hero. Washed Up has been.
Oh yeah, My Hero, he's never played.
Truly.
So.
My Hero. Okay.
Actually a
So
jabroni.
specifically the Unfetched Stuff boys, then Bromley, Jose, those guys. Don't be afraid to like hear what they say and be like, yeah, I agree with them. So it's my opinion now too. You know, don't think that that's not okay. Maybe if you want to give them credit, sure, feel free to do so. But ideas are not owned. Things that are yours because you agree with them are also yours now too. You know, it's not like you came up with it. Don't say you did or not. But it's like, don't feel bad about it if you just end up saying the same thing. You know, don't go back and re-record a whole video because you realize that Sue is the best deck and you're just going to repeat what they say all the time. You know, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's there's only so much space you can really tread over anyway, right? And if you're going to be doing breakdowns of events, you're naturally gonna tread over that same territory. So I think that's an excellent point, especially for someone who's really intimidated by trying to enter the content creation sphere. But Aspira, is there anything that you particularly enjoy? Do you have like a favorite My Hero Academia content, or is there something that you wish existed, something you're waiting for?
There is. So like, first off, like I've iterated many times, I love, design and understanding the philosophy of card games and going deep on as to why something works, why something doesn't work. So anything that lends itself into higher level discussions like that are things that I love listening to. Like Pam, I love listening to podcasts. I listen, Ristic Studies does phenomenal videos about like Magic on a very high level, talking about like things like art and yada yada. And like, so those kinds of discussions I love. So like I listen to Universes Academy a lot. So while I do prefer those discussion videos the most because I can kind of simmer on them while I'm listening to them, I actually watch most, if not all, content in most games that I'm a part of. Aside from gameplay, because like gameplay content that's literally just camera gameplay, like I unfortunately don't have the time to focus on the game while doing other stuff, and like I don't have the time. Like I think people overassume how much time we have available. People think all I ever do is play card games. I'm like, guys, if I'm not playing a card game on camera, I don't have the time to play card games. Like, because I'm making videos, I'm working and doing all this other stuff. I gotta eat. Like, so
Keep on playing. What are you
Man.
doing?
Yeah.
I'm almost
So, like-
ashamed of how little I've played.
But my road to success has always been deep integrations into the community, right? So for me, it's, like if you guys jump onto the MHA Discord, like I'm talking an MHA discussion like every other day because I love being a part of the community, and to be a part of the community, I need to know what's going on. And also, anyone who's making My Hero content is my competitor. Yes, high tides raise all boats, but I better be the biggest damn boat. So like I got to know what's out there. I got to know who's doing what. I got to understand what kind of niche I can fulfill, and if there isn't a niche. So on that point, I love high quality gameplay stuff. Like it is amazing how much Yu-Gi-Oh content I watch as someone who does not play Yu-Gi-Oh. And those guys are like always push the bar so incredibly well. Sealed only. You got like Simo's like 11th series about who knows what. So they do incredible amounts of things. So things that I would be interested in playing in, because I'm in a peculiar position, right? Like I agree with Tam. Where are all our market videos? But it's also weird me making the market video as a guy who works with Jasco. That's just kind of like way too many levels of like conflicts of interest that I'm not trying to get into. So like, I don't know if you guys have ever watched like Game Nights, or if you guys have ever watched Sam from Yu-Gi-Oh. He started a series between like
drafting
him. Yeah, exactly that. Like high quality gameplay where like it cuts into a reality TV-esque interview that says he's never gonna expect this, and then the next cut after, guy just loses, right? Like I love bringing that kind of aspect. Anything that'll make it consumable to people who don't necessarily care about the game, right? I love that kind of content. It's super watchable. Like I can show anybody like, yo, watch this and you'll have fun watching it. That kind of stuff is really where I want to drive the next level of my content, or where if anyone wants to take that idea and run with it, you'll save myself a lot of time. You're welcome to run with it. That's what I think is missing in this space. Because like it or not, the first thing that Steven told me when he got into this game was like, what? This is something masterpiece. That this was is the most beautiful, complicated masterpiece I've ever jumped into, or something like that.
I think I said something like once I figured out how to actually, like once I was able to look at a board state and be like, I know what that card does, 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 I know what that attack does. Let's look at my opponent's board now. What's that? What's that? What's that? Like, I was able to be like, okay, all these little things that I learned, like analyzing a board state in My Hero is so different than analyzing a board state in most other games, because like when the resources you have to just pay for costs also happen to have their own effects and their own modifiers and their own mechanics built into them, it just adds a layer of the analysis that I personally love diving into. And I might have said something like it's a complicated masterpiece, like a pointless picture you'll find in a Van Gogh painting art. I don't know art, something like that. It was lame. Past Steven was way more creative than I am currently.
I found it. The MHA Universe's fight system is the most complicated masterpiece I've ever seen. And
it was a message. Perfect.
Yeah, and that encompasses, right? I think anyone who actually takes the time to deep dive into MHA ends up loving it for the depth and for everything that it provides in that, right? Like when I lose a game outside of like a bad 2-check, like I walk away from almost every game of Universe I play like, I really could have done 2-3 different things that would have made my sequencing so much better, right? And I love that competitive edge of just like, I could have done better. I hate card games that make me feel like I had no decision whether I win or lose, right? So the ability to do that is fantastic, but there is that barrier to entry. MHA very much has that fighting game, like VGC-esque issue where the barrier to entry before you can start enjoying it is very tough. So any content that can be produced that lowers that barrier to entry and makes it an easier entry point to be like, okay, this is sick and I want to get into it, I think will lend itself extremely well to not only the community, but it's something that I would appreciate watching as well. So.
Yeah. I'm gushing. I'm gushing hearing you guys talk about this game that I absolutely love, and the figuring it out. It's so sick looking at a game board, looking at a game state, and building your own combos, looking and being like, I see about 6 lines that I could take, and 2 of them win the game. the other 4 look like they win the game.
Yeah.
And that's not including what my opponent's doing. It's so sick once you're able to crack that code and really, truly play a game with your opponent, with your rival. That is actually, I think, the number one thing about My Hero that I like so much is I really feel like I am playing a game with somebody and not playing a game at somebody. As somebody who came from a big Yu-Gi-Oh background where I would go and I draw my 5 cards and then I would play a 10-minute turn while my partner's on Twitter scrolling, and then I go, okay, your turn, and then I put my hand down because I don't have a hand trap, obviously, and then they play their 15-minute turn and I scroll. Oh, it was 8,000? Okay, we'll go to the next one. Like, I didn't play with them. I played at them. And we really, really, really get that with My Hero. You're right, Damdel, unless you're playing Tokoyami. Correct.
Yeah. Unless
You
you draw
definitely
all
have your opponent
4
with that character.
Free Summon
Summon
Dark
Dark
Shadow.
Shadow.
Good job. Good job. King.
Yeah,
Good job.
you get it. You got it, Damn. Me and your mom are proud.
Yeah, I think Tam and I, we're both about to burst there listening to you guys because that's what we've been doing for years. That's like how we've been inundated with the game for so long now that I think it's actually impossible to play a perfect game of Universes. Like, actually 100%, I don't think you can play a perfect game. You can have a game with no mistakes. You can have a game with no bad plays. But, like, the amount of decisions that you make from reviewing to checking to the order that you play things around, having a perfect game just isn't actually quantifiable. And more importantly, when I get fast-tracked into other games, we talked about you use those resources online to dive into a new game. People can tell me, counter this spell. This is their win condition. You hand trap this card. If you can get X set up by a certain turn, you are winning, right? You are going to win, and your opponent should scoop. And I don't find that in our game. Like, I almost never find that in the My Hero card game, in the Universes card game. There's no deck. There's pretty much no deck where someone just tells me, block this attack and you win. It just isn't that kind of game. And so that has been something that I have focused on and held on to. And Tam, I need you to weigh in on this really quick. As someone who has really analyzed this set 1 format, I know we're going off on a little bit of a tangent. We're getting close to the 2 hours, so I really appreciate everybody hanging in there with me. Everyone in the chat who's been there the whole time, you're truly a blessing. But Tam, tell me really quick, just from your unique perspective, coaching people and deep diving the set 1, you've talked about being able to predict plays. And if you go back and watch the most recent provisional when Andrew and I were doing broadcasting, it's almost like every time we mentioned a play, it would immediately happen. Do you think that you can square cards up on like a 1-for-1 basis, sort of like this is my one counter to a specific technique that can win you the game, similar to how we talked about in other games where there's a singular win condition? Or do you really feel like you have to be able to address like multiple threats in every deck?
So it's interesting because of how small set 1 is, that I don't think the format is solved, but I think that decks are solved, right? I think that Atsui is one of the easiest decks to pick up and look at a hand and know, oh, this is I'm going to kill you. This is I'm not going to kill you. I should play my blocks here. I should not. Oh man, I drew 6 attacks and 2 of them are frog kicks. I guess you just die, right? But with Sans Froppy, a lot of the other decks, you have these really specific lines, like this goes into this, goes into this, goes into indiscriminate is the only thing that kills here. Oh, you sculpt for an indiscriminate, so you got to win the game. So as the player, as the defender, you should look and be like, okay, if they have 3 attacks plus indiscriminate, I lose. I need to hold a low block. And so you get to play this back and forth. And I think that's exclusively set 1. I think as we go into set 2, decks are going to open up so wide. I want to make a TAM talk about what I think the future of the meta is going into Vegas. And there you go. Going into Vegas. And I have like 12 different characters and like 8 different archetypes. And then I was in the coaching session with it when I was explaining this idea to somebody, and I literally let out the rest of the board and said, and all of these characters do this thing, just not quite as well as these 2 characters that are represented here. Every single one of them. And that's like this is the first day that Set 2's been legal, right? Like technically legal is today or tomorrow or something.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
We don't even have Set 2 legal yet, we have 30 decks that are like, I could see this winning Vegas, and so the game's going to be way harder to do that with going forward. I no longer get to claim that I'm Nostradamus of the game. That was just a Set 1 thing. I don't get to do that anymore.
That was really my take from it too. It was really unique. When you had first told me about it, I didn't quite believe you, and then I saw more evidence of it, right? And then experiencing it myself. But I do think that a big part of that is, one set format, and we still saw so much diversity. But we are getting a little off topic. I do want to kind of rein it back in. We're going to wrap things up here. We are drawing to a close, and I want to talk the future. We're approaching the very first year of the My Hero Academia card game. The growth has been phenomenal. It has truly been much larger than I thought it would be. Like in the early rushes, I thought it was going to be the kind of thing that had to really snowball down the mountain, start small and build it. And we did see like this huge explosion right at the beginning. New faces and old faces seeing success in our organized play, which was something that was very important to me. And we see new faces and old faces in social media. We have new people wanting to create that content. But I need to know if you have any goals for your channels. I know some of you guys talked about it a little bit, but do you have a goal for your channel? Short-term goals, long-term goals? Are there any specific achievements that you're aiming for? True Champion Steven, is there any achievement that you're aiming for specifically, like with your channel, with your content?
So this kind of harkens back to, it's gonna be a very boring answer, but I don't really plan my content that way. Like if I have a creative idea, like I used to do this thing called Cardfight Vanguard Trivia, where I'd go over archetypes that I loved from Cardfight Vanguard and give you all the funny facts about all of them, like who made this artwork, how many different artworks it has, the first time it was printed, because they share a lot of themes throughout their incarnations, all that fun stuff. So like that's the thing I'll plan. But in terms of like my day-to-day or my like 5-year plan for my channel, that doesn't exist. I will just, what am I doing that day? Is there a camera there? Maybe I'll record it, maybe I won't. So in terms of My Hero specifically, as long as I'm playing the game, you can expect me to make content about it. But if I'm not playing it anymore, or I choose to diverge into something else, it's not like that's not a possibility. Same goes for Digimon, same goes for whatever else. I could be a Pokemon, My Hero, Digimon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Content creator by the time the year's over, in which case we could just stop calling me that and just say, I'm True Champion Steven, here's what I'm doing today. That's
right.
More like what my show is usually. So
Love that.
there is no set in stone X amount of time, gonna do this forever. You never know. I would like to say that there's no chance I'm stopping. Right now, I just came up with 18 different decks today, like Tam said, for Set 2, that I'm like, they're all crazy. I need to pick one. Not fun. It's tough. That's the hardest thing ever, by the way, is picking what deck you actually commit to playing. That's like, Jesus Christ. I think God Froppy was the best deck that was actually solved. Like, he'd be like, I don't need to figure this one out anymore. I can just play it and let it rock. Let's go. Play it better than the guy playing it against you, and you'll win. Cool. Let's do it. All right.
Advice for winners. Check better.
Check better.
You know what? Probably was one deck where I was like, I can check rolling threes and be fine. Yeah, I'll do that.
Don't talk to me. Some of us 7-handers had to be out here playing a real game.
How many amphibious do I have?
4? Oh, we're good. Okay, anyway, but yeah, so yeah, nothing crazy there. But I will say that there is a lot of fun stuff, I think. I actually think I just came up with a new creative idea as we were talking about the need for more creative ones. So I might work on something. But anyway, yeah, so nothing too crazy, no real plan, but I'm excited to see what options arise as time goes on.
All right. Espira, so same question, for your channels, for your content specifically, is there a specific achievement, a plateau, something that you want to reach, something that you're looking forward to in the future as a content creator?
I mean, as a milestone, I look forward to the first video I make that hits 1 million views. I'm not gonna lie, like just as a milestone to say like I've made a video that hit 1 million. And is that going to be a TCG specific one? Who knows? Maybe it is. I have ideas for other YouTube channels I want to do, so we'll see. I think at that point I've no longer gotten to a point where like we've iterated so many times. I make content for myself, and I just kind of make content about the things I'm interested in. So if that ends up leading to some kind of other thing, cool. I think that's the only last check mark. If I ever get like a YouTube flag to put on my wall, I guess that would be cool too. But my content has definitely taken a bit of a back burner step because I'm focusing so much on making the MHA stuff be what it can be. So like if I can reorient it to say like, if the MHA streams can reach a viewership of like 1,000 plus by the time we get to like Nats, I think that would be insane. I think that would be super sick. So every goal I have at the moment is about expanding the reach of the card game. And what's that? Well, the official channels themselves doing well, obviously. So if the provisionals and regionals and all that can do great, fantastic. Anything I can do to help other channels grow, so if I can promote or give advice or say like, hey, we're going to do this thing that's really going to supercharge the way that content creators in our game are able to grow, then that's really where all my focus is. So the success of the genre as a whole is my primary focus going to wrap up this year. And if you want to hit some cap milestones, Tam monetized once he hit 1,000, right? Like I want more monetized UVS MHA creators, right? Like I want more Tam Cardwells. I want to bring in more Stevens, like these absolute titans who come in, top a tournament the second time they showcase, just right. So if the more of that we can do, that's really where it is. Number of creators that come into our card game, breaking 1,000 for our tournament would be absolutely amazing. And then if my stuff gets some nice viewership bumps, if I do anything cool, that'd be cool too.
No, I love that. I think the million views, I think that's it's maybe a more humble goal than it sounds, right? It's such a pretty number, the 1 million. So I really love that answer. I really think that is something you can be, I guess, grounded about, but also still be hopeful about, still look forward to. So I'm looking forward to you hitting that 1 million. I'm looking forward to the My Hero tournaments hitting that 1,000 as well, because that would be exceptional. But last but not least, I'm going to come to Tamron Cardwell. In the future, organized play, or specific achievements with your content, with your channel. You've got the live streams, you've got the YouTube. Is there a goal? Is there a milestone, a benchmark that you're trying to hit?
It's funny because the main number I care about right now is actually people over on my Discord. I care about that number more than I care about the views, because I think if I just keep doing what I'm doing, the views are just going to go up and up and up and up and up. And that I think it's all directly correlated to the Discord that I have. There's so many. Every day I get at least one new person. Hey, I'm new to the game. Who wants to help? And I've got like 6 or 7 people jump on them and be like, "Yo, I'm in. Let's go down to the voice channel. Let's TTS. Let's webcam. Let's do what we can to get you up and rocking." And I think that is so much cooler than a video hitting X amount of views or whatever. Specifically content wise, I actually really like what I'm doing right now. I really like it. There's one snafu, and we'll get behind the weeds, right? I don't like what I do on Sundays. I think Sundays I'm trying to find something to do, but I just can't quite put my finger on it. So I just kind of got to go a little deep in the tank and like figure out what works best for what I want to put out on YouTube versus Twitch versus for Patreon versus XYZ things. There's one day that I got to figure out, and that's my very short-term goal, is to figure out a very, very hard weekly schedule. And Sunday I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing. Just more games. Let's play more games, I guess. That's a very lazy answer.
That's always the first plan, right? Play more games.
Right.
I think if there's one thing I've taken away from this whole live stream, from this whole experience, is that proper planning is super important. Having a game plan, having, just an idea that you can follow through on is really the first step. And I want to thank all of you guys for joining me, not only on the show, Aspira, Tam, and Steven, but also everyone in the chat, everyone who came by to watch. This has been such an awesome experience for me. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Now I'm going to send it out to all of these guys here so they can give you, once again, who they are, where you can find them, get all their plugs in. Aspira, I'm going to start with you. Go ahead and and give us, where can they find you at?
Yeah, so at the moment on YouTube, you guys can find me over at Aspira TCG, and on Twitch, that is Aspira TV, as well as on Twitter at Aspira TV. Look up Aspira, odds are you'll find me, or this one obscure city in France, which I learned when I really started branding, that also shares my name.
That's tight. That's tight.
While I have the chance, can I ask you where you got the name for your channel?
Okay.
I didn't know it was the whole story.
You don't ask a man that.
If it's a long story, we can save it for a podcast. We can let Tam listen.
I felt that so much.
All right, so short edition. You guys know I was into MapleStory. Had to come up with a name. I was like, to hell with it, The Bang Bang. And then I grew up into like a 13-year-old and became edgy. So then it was X big X X bang X X, because the more X's you got in your name, that's cool as dick.
Love that.
Anyway, I held on to that through the entirety of high school, and when I went into college, I'm like, okay, I need a rebrand. So I actually have a I'm Portuguese. My entire heritage is, so I have a big thing for dragons. So I just started Google translating shit, and then I landed on Spirit Dragon, which is Espírito Dragão, and then I like fused them together in a cool way, which is Espiragão. So technically, Aspira is a nickname, and the real name is like a kind of like fused version of a Spirit Dragon. So Aspira is kind of like a nickname version of Spirit Dragon in Portuguese, and that's where it came from. And then things like TCG and TV is because there's some town in France called Aspira, and it's just hard to get it locked in.
Wow, that's actually really cool. I love that name. I think the roots behind it. I love dragons. I think it sounds really cool. It definitely sounds cooler than me just saying Spirit Dragon. So I think that's awesome, actually. I just stole mine.
I think it's a vast improvement from XX big XX bang XX. So
agree to disagree. Agree to disagree.
He's changing his name right now.
Yeah,
that's my name now. You lost it, son.
All right, Tam, I'm sure a lot of people who would be in my chat would know exactly where to find you, but for the sake of the live stream, let them know who you are, where they can find you.
Yeah, all my social medias are just my name, Tam Cardwell. You can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Please don't add me on Facebook. I get that a lot. It was the one mistake I should have picked Spirit Dragon for sure. It's I'd love to and once again, my most important metric, please go out, join the Discord, come have a conversation with me. That's where I want to chat with you, is over on Discord. Please go look at that in any of the descriptions or whatever. Just click it, join the link.
Awesome. And then last but certainly not least, True Champion Steven, let them know who you are, where to find you.
Well, first of all, Sam, thank you so much for having me on today. It was an absolute pleasure. I would not be at all good at this game if it wasn't for our talks. So appreciate being here so we can talk in front of other people. Great. You can find me and my super boring long name, True Champion Steven, at YouTube and Twitch under the same handle, or a little bit better on Twitter at ChampionSteven_. If you want to come watch me play card games, hear about me rant, hear me salt, hear me rage quit, see some funny pictures that I take. Those are the places. That's about it.
Awesome. Thank you guys again for joining me. And if any of you are not already in the official My Hero Academia card game Discord, you can join it. We have a MHA CCG content channel, which you can find where all of these gentlemen are going to upload all of their My Hero CCG content. So that is also a great way to stay involved with the community at large, get all of the official JASCO announcements, all of the news, all of the organized play updates. Everything you need to know can be found in the official Discord, including all of our content here. So once again, we're signing off. This has been My Hero Talkademia. I am Ace Maneuvers. I've had all of these wonderful guests. Thank you guys again for joining me. We will see you all next time.